How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on YouTube.com with all your show hosts. They're here this time. Ara still.
Fenarian.
And we're also allowing me to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week with our full complement of forces ready.
Yeah,
For the
it's
first
been
time,
a fun
some
few
weeks.
weeks.
Fun is one word for it.
Yes, not the right word.
Yes, indeed. But if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you could join us in the Discord server, which you can get to by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the show archive on YouTube. You know, every time I mention the Twitter, I think, I should probably post more stuff on the Twitter, but then I realize that would mean I would have to use Twitter.
Yeah, don't use Twitter.
It's just... It doesn't need to be bad, but it does encourage badness, and most of what you find there is very bad.
There is so much bad. So, on the stream today, I'm playing a new game, which is Farthest Frontier. It's a city builder, medieval-ish time period, as they all tend to be, because I guess every other time period is boring.
No, or like that. What about Caesar and Pharaoh?
Well, no, that's just because both Cairo and Rome were perpetually on fire.
Or rioting.
Or rioting. Or both. Or locusts.
Or being smote by their gods.
Yeah. Those two games put a very bleak spin on life in those times.
I really liked Caesar 3.
Yeah, but how do you set a mud hut on fire?
It just kind of happens. I've just always assumed it was a peasant thing.
I guess it is. Must just be a peasant thing.
I mean, what we know from growing up in the Orts is that peasants are on fire.
Yes.
Generally speaking, because Trogdor's been around. And so if they live in a mud hut, the mud hut will eventually also be on fire.
Yeah. But yeah, they were great games, but yeah, if you didn't have a fire station on every corner, your town would just burn down and there was nothing you could do about it. That was stupid. Anywho, so yeah, this whole premise, it kind of goes around the... I'll just skip the intro. It just goes with the Banished type thing, where it is city building survival. You need to make your resources balance, otherwise your food's going to rot and your peasants are going to starve, and thankfully the AI on the peasants in this game is not equivalent to, a brick like it is in Banished.
Which one is Banished?
Banished is the medieval city builder survival. It's kind of the one that really kicked off the genre. That was done as, I believe it was somebody's college project.
I see. I don't know why, since I've never played it and I've never watched any footage of it or anything like that, but for some reason, for me, in my brain, the game that comes to mind when people say City Builder Survivor is Frostpunk.
Frostpunk is its own beast, and I love it. I'm terrible at it, but I love it.
I think everybody is terrible at it from what I hear.
By design, that game is, I think, supposed to kill everyone, sooner or later. Unless you're playing through the story mode, then all you're doing is just beating back the inevitable. So yeah, the theme and everything around that game is just so good. So yeah, they've done a few interesting little things with this one. You actually have an intelligent, something of a functioning AI in your citizens, which Banished does not. And they've just changed the way in which a few resources are presented. Like, unlike every other game in existence, your food supply is listed in how many months it will last, rather than just raw units, which is a much more useful metric. Also, the loading times are terrible because it's generating a map. So, yeah, this one also does tend to have more military and raiders and things like that, which a lot of others don't. In those games, it's always basically you're fighting nature, which still happens in this. You still get the murderous winters, But every now and again, after your town reaches a certain size, you're going to get raiders and then attacks from other interested parties and potentially the lordlings who you ran away from in the first place. So yeah, it's a nice little game. And they are still developing more content for it all the time. I believe it is still marked as early access. Alright, so that's that. How much of the last 3 weeks do I want to talk about?
Well, I don't have a week to speak of this week, so feel free to take as long as you want.
A lot of it I just don't want to talk about. It's family stuff and yeah. But I can talk about the Vidya I played, because I did play a couple of notable games. The first is I finished Great Ace Attorney. I did that actually a couple of days after the last show I was on. Overall, like, that was a very good experience. Like, obvious bad guy was obvious. And, I mean, it's an Ace Attorney game. Generally, the moment the bad guy appears on screen, you'll know who it is. The fact that this bad guy managed to hang around for 2 games before, going into meltdown and start screaming about his maniacal plans is probably a new record, but anyway.
Wait, so this is like a direct sequel?
Yeah. Ace Attorney Chronicles, as we get it in the West, is 2 games. It is Ace Attorney Adventures and Ace Attorney Resolve, I believe.
Right, and they are, from your perspective, both full length and scope?
They are full length. They're both 5 cases each, and they are both the equivalent length of previous Ace Attorney games. Each. That said, the stories aren't really self-contained to each game. You kind of need to play them both. I need to find a place to actually plop my town centre. I'm going to plop it. There's no water over here. Whatever. So yeah, if you want the full story, the first game you can play on its own, which is Ace Attorney Adventures. But you're going to be left with a lot of cliffhangers and a lot of unanswered questions as to, like, who is these people who just showed up for one scene at this one time and contributed absolutely nothing to the story.
What was the gap between them and the original release?
In Japan, that's an interesting
Like,
question.
how long were people left hanging after the first one?
I need to look this up, actually. Let's see. Ace Attorney Wiki should have it. As long as it's not on Fextra Life.
There's no Fextra Life has got their thing they're obsessed with, and thankfully they stick to just action games.
Information about Dark Souls.
Being wrong about Monster Hunter.
Any action game that has a whole lot of weapons you can equip, they try to sneak their way in.
Yeah. Let's see. Ace Attorney Adventures was released in 2015. That's for the original version. This is the Chronicles is on the Switch, and it's a much higher quality version of it. Let me see. No, they haven't actually put this information in any particularly useful order because that would be helpful. You can't do that. Trying to find it. And Ace Attorney Resolve. So 2015 for Adventure. Resolve was 2017. 2 years for the initial.
2 years of just not knowing what was going on with all of those dangling plot threads.
Yeah, and there's a lot.
No wonder
of them.
they released them back to back. They must have received an outcry.
So yeah, I highly recommend it. As far as where it goes on the Ace Attorney goodness scale, hard to say. I'd put it. Well, it's definitely above Dual Destinies.
That's not hard.
That's not hard. I think I still prefer. I think I still prefer Leighton versus Wright, because that had just such a good mystery going through it. But
Are those events referred to by any other games?
no, not directly. So, because yeah, let's face it, the time period is who even knows for that game. Because Leighton is kind of late Victorian London, and Phoenix Wright is modern.
Are you sure?
Sometimes?
Because I didn't get that impression at all.
Yeah. That's the problem with the Professor Layton series, is the time period is just so ambiguous.
Like, they dress that way, sure, but...
And they sometimes have that level of technology. So, yeah, the Layton plot or time period is basically whatever the plot demands it. Let's face it. Where should I plop? I'm going to put my town hall. I can go... yeah, I'll just stick it over here. Alright. So, yeah, very good game. But,
Reign end.
like I said, obvious bad guy was obvious. But... it's more like, you know who it is when you first see him. But it's exactly kind of... the bigger reveal is more what he did, how he went about it, and just how many people did he screw over with his actions. The answer is everybody. Literally everybody. So that was fun. The other good little thing about it is, as you go through the game, and I didn't realize until about halfway through just what they were doing is the sneaky little references to Conan Doyle's work all through it. Like, some of them are blatantly obvious. Like, you've got the second case is The Adventure of the Speckled Band. That's just straight up the name of a Conan Doyle book. But you've got less obvious ones as well. Like, you've got a character who's got a obviously disfigured lip, which is another Sherlock Holmes story. I'm not going to go over them all. It's half the fun's just figuring them all out as you go.
He doesn't bring with him any of Holmes's worst habits, does he?
Oh, he brings almost all of them. He doesn't
have
have
the powdery one.
He doesn't have the powdery one. Although some days the way he carries on, you'd swear he does. So maybe he just keeps it in secret. Yeah, Sholmes is eccentric, let's just say. But I mean, he kind of fits the mold.
Does he go over a waterfall at any point?
No, actually.
Because that seems to be the favourite thing for FGO to bring up about him, other than his habits.
Yes, his less socially acceptable habits.
I just don't know how socially acceptable it was in his era.
In his era, it was extremely socially acceptable. It was like medicine. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil too much more about it and just say go and play it, because it is a very good entry. They do leave cliffhangers. Well, not so much cliffhangers. They leave a small plot thread saying that there could be a third entry into the Great Ace Attorney series.
But basically, it's not like the Blue Ball Fiesta that the original duology was.
No, absolutely not. It's basically that Sholmes is telling Ryu as he leaves, because one day I'll come and visit you in Japan.
Oh, so he's more likely to be like a guest character for a case in a subsequent entry.
Possibly. Although, yeah, given his Sholmes-ness, I guess, if he turns up as a guest character, he's probably just going to overrun the entire plot. It's kind of what he does. What is interesting, though, is at no point does Sholmes take the stand for any purpose.
Would you want that on the stand?
No. And the judge seems to be very much of that opinion as well. So yeah, there are two judges, the Japanese judge and the English judge. The English judge is basically the regular Phoenix Wright judge. He's kind of a little bit senile, but he's got it upstairs and in his head. Yeah, sorry, he's got his head in order when it counts. Yeah. Also, you know things get serious in a Phoenix Wright game when you have a guest judge. Spoilers for the last case. 2 cases, actually, by the way. Which was actually an interesting thing, because though the last 2 cases are basically one case split into 2. It goes that long. But it's also like, here is every single plot thread in this game all coming together in one giant case.
So what, you have to take notes while you're playing?
No, not quite that bad, but you do end up with, I think, like 4 pages of evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been one to take notes while playing video games, but I noticed that a lot of the people, the streamers who were intending or who did go through with doing the dead run through the entire Final Fantasy XIV story, a lot of them took a lot of notes.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah, because I mean, I experienced most of FF in real time, so I would soak in the information as it went, and even though I wouldn't explicitly recall a lot of the information, the sort of implicit knowledge would be there, but for people experiencing a lot of story back to back, which would have been released over years, and then trying to put it all together in one go, they took a lot of notes. I was sort of wondering, like, well, I mean, if they are pulling together lots and lots of plot threads across 2 games, those memories are going to be really foggy for a lot of the people in Japan who played the first one 2 years prior.
Yeah, like playing playing them together, it's not so much of an issue because you're able to just keep going with everything that's happening. But yeah, even the tutorial quest of the second game, that introduces at least one character who just never comes back up again. She's just there as the defendant, and that's her entire point in the story. The events of that case do have a small impact, but yeah, that's the only one that really kind of hangs out on its own. So yeah, that's that. The other game I've been sinking some time into is an excellent travel game, and that is Digimon Survive, which I'm enjoying, but not everyone's going to.
That's a very emphatic but.
And here's the big wobbly but on it.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's barely a Digimon game. Like, it's got Digimon in it, and its plot elements are basically like you are not the Digidestined, because they never actually refer to you as that, but that's totally what you are.
Are they Digidestined, or is that just not a thing?
That's not a thing. The writer of this game basically wanted to set out, and he made like a visual novel of Digimon where you kind of go through the whole Digidestined story. But he also put a spin on it as to what are the origins of Digimon, and it's basically like, okay, they're Digimon because they all come through computers and everything, but in this case, it's like they've just always been there. In this case, they're kind of in their own little spooky spiritual world.
So they were something else before the digital age on our world?
Maybe? That's left ambiguous. Because they're still Digimon, and they still have all the technological bits stapled to them. But yeah, there's no talk
I feel like Digimon is one of those IPs that perhaps you shouldn't think about too hard.
Yeah. Like
it definitely is.
It really is. Yeah, it is. There's no mention of, Digital World, Digidestined. They don't even actually say the word Digimon in the game. At all. The only place it is in the game is on the title screen. That's it. So, yeah, you could swap them out for, yokai or some other sort of spirit or just weird beast thingies. Because they call them...
That's where I thought you were going with when you were saying, oh, they're going to try and explain the origin of the Digimon. Because, like, if I was going to make a run of that, then I would basically use something like the Fate Universe reverse side of the world, and that for some reason the digital age of mankind presented an interface to give them sort of expression.
Yeah. If they were going to go that storyline, I'd hope they go that way. But they really kind of didn't, because you're modern age characters in the modern world, or were in the modern world. But because it's Japan, they walked through a spooky abandoned road tunnel. You never do that. If anime and games have taught me anything, spooky abandoned road tunnels have either one of two things in them. First is a portal to some sort of spirit world, or a murderer.
Yeah, it was a freaking ghost of a murderer in Secret World, though.
So, yeah, it was actually. They're not necessarily a human murderer, but there are murderers. So just don't go into tunnels in Japan. Just don't. There's murder in there. But, yeah, as far as the story goes, the story is dark. Like, and I'm going to give a few spoilers here for the first playthrough, and that is, you cannot get the good ending on your first playthrough. It's physically impossible. You can only get it in New Game Plus. Which means some children are going to die. And one of them, at least, dies in a very gruesome way. So there's that to look forward to, that happy little thought. So, yeah, basically is all these kids
Can you not hear me?
Burn.
What? I did not hear you.
Can you hear it?
You did you say you can hear us or you can't hear us?
I could not hear you until you asked.
Oh, because you've been ignoring like half of my questions for this show so far.
Right. Okay. Yeah. The Discord was being weird earlier too. It's just randomly cutting you out. Can I do anything about that? Probably not. Phil's there while I look into this.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, so it's
I
not
have you
Discord.
I might
this
have
is
you
not
turned
our
up a little bit.
Discord.
Let me double check. I actually have you turned down a hair to about 90%. So yeah, but yeah, I can hear you fine.
That's kind of weird. Because yeah, I knew you were talking before the show at one point, and you just kind of actually cut in at the worst possible time. Or you're talking about murder hobos or something.
Yeah, do you have some setting that mutes everybody else while you are transmitting or something?
I did not have that turned on. But
You might not have, but did your computer have other ideas?
that's entirely possible because I did do a Windows update in the last couple of weeks.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Windows updates tend to ruin everything. Can I? Let me see. Just gotta remember where to do this now.
Yeah. I've never actually played a Digimon game. I've always been like, this looks a little bit jank. I don't think I want to invest time in it.
A lot of them are very jank, and even though the game can be extremely good and very satisfying to play, UI, it always falls down on the UI.
Yeah, the Cyber Sleuth games are probably your best bet for a generic Digimon game if you just want to check it out and see what goes on with the universe and stuff. But all the other ones have some form of jank, especially like Digimon World.
As much as I like the Digimon World games, yeah, they're jank. Like, you need to raise your Digimon in order to get them to evolve in certain ways, but the game will never tell you, first and foremost, what actually contributes to the evolution, or if it does, how you go about doing the various things you need to do, or what the outcome's going to be, or it's going to just bury it in rubbish.
Yeah, it's it can be quite a mess.
Yeah.
But I think genuinely the Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory games tell a good enough story to just take them as they are.
Yeah.
And roll with it.
The biggest problem I find with the Digimon World games is that because your Digimon can die, either by losing too many battles or just time, is every now and again you're going to have to put the story on hold and go and grind while your Digimon re-ages up to a level where you can proceed with the story again. In the case of World New Order, you will do that only for your second Digimon to die.
Doesn't sound like a game that wants you to have fun.
Also, Leomon's in it. Leomon dies in that game.
Oh yeah, you didn't answer my question. How many Leomons have died?
No Leomons. Well, actually, no. I have fought one Leomon, and he died. So I guess that counts. So yeah, as far as the plot is very dark, the combat is probably the next bit we should talk about. It's there.
Well, that's a categorical statement.
Yes, it is. The combat exists. It's turn-based tactical combat, so you move your units around a grid and all of that sort of thing. It is extremely basic. Digimon do have elements, which you can ignore. They do, however, have their virus data vaccine attributes, or they call them, I think, Wrath, Harmony, and Moral.
That's weird. What was wrong with virus data vaccine?
I don't know. They still use the same icons, so it doesn't really matter. So, for the first half of the game, up until about Chapter 7, you can completely ignore that as well. Once you start getting Ultimate level Digimon, you'll need to worry about that. But yeah, the combat exists. That's about all you can say about it. It's extremely basic. It serves its purpose, but don't go looking for any greater depth, really, than that. You've got all your partner Digimon, which I think are going to be a little bit stronger than any of the wild ones you can recruit. And in general, as the story goes on, you're going to just be putting the partner Digimon on the field anyway, because they get the ability to use talk commands, which, depending on who's doing the talking, will give a buff or a debuff or something like that. Or you can use them to recruit wild Digimon Persona 5 style. Literally that style.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask, is this an SMT thing?
Yeah. So, what it does is you start talking to them. If they're able to be recruited, that you can just talk to them. If you can't, they don't even appear in the menu. They'll give you 3 questions, the answers to which are largely arbitrary, based on the Digimon's personality. The only Digimon I have not had to trial and error my way through was Edimon.
Well, just give him the Elvis Presley answers.
You just give him the Elvis Presley answers, and that's all you need for him.
Man, I don't want to know what Edamon was like in the original Japanese, because he's too cool in the English.
Well, cool is not the word I'd use.
I think he's cool.
He has a teddy bear taped to his belly button.
Which it's on his belt now, I think, or where his belt would be. Tell you what, you get Monzamon turn up fairly early in the game as a antagonist. He looks like just a giant teddy bear, except the voice acting they gave him makes him sound truly sinister. It's great. The other bits and pieces you need to watch out for is affinity, because it's a visual novel. You need to raise your affinity up with your other party members. This does a couple of things. You need affinity in order to stop people dying in the New Game Plus mode. If you don't have enough affinity, then they're going to die. You'll also need it to, except in a couple of circumstances, to unlock Ultimate and Mega forms for the other partner Digimon. Everyone gets their champion form as part of the story, but yeah, Ultimate and up, too bad. You gotta grind. The problem is whenever there's an affinity check, it will give you one of 3 answers to the to whatever the character wants to say. And if you pick the wrong one, then that opportunity goes, and you miss out on your opportunity to raise your affinity with that character. It is entirely possible to just miss out entirely.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I don't even try and do those fair. Like any game these days which has missable conversations, I get a guide, preferably a non-spoiler one, which just lists, choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, and their particular bonuses, because I just can't be bothered with that crap anymore. I don't think that's gameplay.
Yeah. And especially when it's locking a good chunk of character's power behind it. or in the case of some characters, their actual plot endings. So
Yeah, like I did my first run through of Persona 3 totally blind on that stuff, and it made my social link layout a total mess.
yeah, when I get round to actually doing New Game Plus, I'm just going to open up a sheet of the affinities, so I know what to say to who. As far as evolutions go, while Digimon will have a branching tree, except for the promo Gearmon they give you, who is just a straight line. He goes straight from Gearmon through his usual steps up to Gallantmon, and that's all he can do. The others just kind of branch out wherever they need to go. Partner Digimon are generally straight lines as well, except they will have a couple, maybe one or two branches on them, usually at the Mega stage. I have no idea what actually swings which evolution they choose there. Probably affinity. Like if you've completely neglected the character, then they're going to get the bad Mega form probably. And the final what?
No, he can't hear anything, can he?
You've gone again.
You were just talking clean through both of us.
Yeah, I heard nothing. I didn't even have Discord light up. I was keeping an eye. I've been keeping an eye on it.
We've been talking like the whole time, and you've only responded to about half of what we said.
What is going on?
This is a new problem.
This is a very new problem. So yeah. Anyway, decent game, but not everyone's going to like it. I can't hear you guys if you're talking.
No, we're not.
No,
but
no,
now
no.
you're going to be second guessing yourself the entire time, aren't you?
I'm going to be driven crazy by this.
What was I asking about? Oh, right, Ball. You were asking about Guilmon.
I was like, it seems strange to me that that Guilmon keeps appearing in games, because wasn't he like a fan creation or something in the universe?
In universe, he was Takato's drawings from his notepad
So
that accidentally got scanned through the Digivice. So yeah, it's a 10-year-old's OC Digimon that he made that he accidentally brought to life.
Yeah. And everyone loves Gearmon.
Do they?
Yeah, he is quite popular because Guilmon was voiced by Steve Bloom, the guy that did Spike Spiegel.
In the West, yeah.
I see.
In the East, he has the most grating voice.
It's pretty grating in English, but because Cowboy Bebop, he's popular for that reason. And Guilmon's just well liked for people that watch Tamers, because he has a fairly interesting growth from essentially an animal into something that can think and feel.
Yes.
So
I
he goes
suppose
from
a
animal to
Digimon with a
older
character
child.
arc, which is something most of the Digimon lack.
Yes.
All of the Tamers Digimon are less character art types than the Digimon from other series. It's another reason people like Tamers, is because the cast is so much smaller, with only three protagonists. The Digimon, each of their Digimon can also be a character, instead of just being, Agumon is the hungry one, Gabumon is the serious one, Gomamon likes Joe and fishes. Like, you can go a little deeper with that and have them actually do stuff.
Yeah. I'm glad actually Digimon Survive did bring across a lot of the familiar personalities for Digimon. Except for Gomamon. Or rather, Garurumon. He's a bad guy.
Oh yeah, he's vigilante /
Edgelord.
self-righteous edgelord type, with once his personality clicks into his higher evolutions, because he's like, it goes from Gabumon, the kid version, and then when he's Garurumon, he thinks he knows better than everybody else, and everybody else is just dumb.
Yeah. So when you don't have Gabumon in the game, you have Garurumon straight up, you immediately jump to that and it makes him an antagonist. No spoilers whatsoever, but of course he jumps the fence. I mean, that should not surprise anybody at all, ever.
Well, they're not going to leave one of the fan favorites on the bad guy's side.
No. Renamon makes an appearance because, of course, she does.
Because you
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
get those furry contingent dollars.
Yeah. Agumon is Gen 1 Agumon. He's smooth-brained.
Well,
They-
most Agumons are pretty smooth brain.
They're all pretty smooth-brained.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure the epilogue made Agumon a diplomat, and
Yes.
that seems incredibly unwise.
Yes, like, you've got Tai as the diplomat, and that's fine. But not Agumon.
Well, there's a reason most people are dubious as to the canonicity of that epilogue.
Yeah,
Well, it's technically official.
it is.
Yeah, but some of it is just like literally impossible or goes so out in left field that it's hard to believe that's what really happened.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, you're gonna put Agumon in the... Actually, no, that does make perfect sense. Agumon in the UN would actually probably fit in quite nicely.
Agumon's probably smarter than most of the people in the UN.
Yes.
The UN are willing to give Greta Thunberg the time of day.
Thumbug. Yee. So, anyway. They have not, as I've noticed, added any new Digimon in this entry. I guess you could say Labramon is technically new, because they gave her a complete facelift from what she was in Tamers. And she was only in Tamers for like 3 seconds.
I don't
But-
think they really need to add more Digimon. There are so many.
There's so many, and their evolution trees are just completely bonkers.
Like, you're always going to leave so many out. You might as well not create any new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, Digimon were not as thought out initially as Pokemon were. They
it was a
they-
virtual pet. I mean, what
Yeah.
are you going to do?
Yeah, so you had like, we got this dinosaur thing. We can make that work.
Yeah.
and then they just kind of
Like, Gen 1 Digimon, there were only like 6 of them. Like, it was Agumon, Gabumon, Beamon,
Yeah, but as soon as-
Palmon, and...
as soon as they realized they had a winner, they just were like, okay, we can roll with this, and just made up every kind of random thing. Let's make a big wolf one. Let's make a big dinosaur one, and and then all you got to do to digivolve them is just slightly edit it and tack more crap onto it.
and make it bigger.
So you wind up with a colossal list of Digimon.
Yeah. And then they go, okay, so now here is Metal Greymon. How can we make him stronger without making him, advance up to War Greymon? I know, let's just give him a railgun. That's a new form.
Yeah, like they do this all the time. So you wind up with a gazillion different Digimon.
Yeah.
Back when
Like-
there was only the virtual pet, I had the impression that the original lore for War Greymon was that for Metal Greymon was that it was like an undead version.
Oh, that's Skull Greymon.
No, I don't mean Skull Greymon. I mean, like, he was sort of like a Frankenstein's monster, like
Oh.
a sort of corpsey version of Greymon that had been sort of revivified by attaching metal to it instead of revivified by undead necromancy, the way Skull Greymon was.
Probably.
Like, they were both incredibly dark,
Yeah.
and they were also apparently were a losing proposition in the Digimon virtual pet. Like, if you ended up with Metal Greymon, is because you screwed up somewhere along the line, basically.
I forget what his other ones, like, he could go Metal Greymon, he could go Skull Greymon, and I think he had a third option in Gen 1.
No, in Gen 1, for his ultimate form, unless he had a special one for some of the media, it's pretty much exclusively Metal or Skull for your ultimate, depending on
Yeah.
what path you go.
Or
He might
Sukamon.
have a data version, but that I think that was added later.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah, Gen 1, they stopped at Ultimate. Which was fun.
In fact, I'm not even sure Skull Greymon existed in Gen 1.
Yeah, he
It was
did.
in the first season of the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skull Greymon
Because
was there.
that was didn't Tai like try and force more power out
Yeah,
of Greymon or something?
he tried to force feed him food, and then they got captured in an arena and were in trouble, and so he begged him to digivolve, and he did.
Yeah.
He could,
Bad stuff happened. Bad stuff. Yeah. If I'll just finish off Digimon Survive by saying that it's an interesting game and it's a dark game, but it's not really a Digimon game.
Well, having the big fun adventures is kind of part of Digimon, and it seems like it's lacking that in a way.
Yeah. Because everyone's kind of trying their best not to die horribly, the plot kind of sticks to that and just revolves around that. There's none of the goofy episodes or the heartwarming moments, really. It's just everyone's just trying not to die.
Well, I mean, that was also the case in Tamers, though, but they still went on an adventure.
And you still had Venture, you still had your goofy and your heartwarming moments tied in there as well. And then Leomon turned up and ruined. Well, he was heartwarming, and then he died.
He did not last very long in Tamers. That was a very, very short stint as a partner Digimon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's poor Leomon.
It's kind of what he does, let's face it. He's kind of gotten the raw deal in the whole franchise these days.
He must have been really bad in one of his past lives or something, and now he's just orbiting the karma cycle and dying horribly every time.
Yeah. Yeah, poor Leomon. If he shows up as a plot-relevant character in any circumstance, he's...
Oh, no.
He's going to die.
If he shows up, period, he's going to die.
Yeah, because, I mean, if he's not a plot-relevant character, that means he's cannon fodder.
Yeah.
That's free real estate. Or free Leomon.
Let me see. I was up to the Leomon War in New Order, actually. Let me see if he dies. I don't think he died, actually. I think he may have digivolved. At least the story one.
A bunch of them get the opportunity to digivolve. The problem is they don't get to stay that way for very long until they die.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, New Order Leomon actually lives.
Like the Gen 1 Leomon from the original series, he made it to Saber Leomon for an episode.
For one episode, yeah, and then he died. Why always Leomon? Why can't it be a Digimon that nobody likes?
Because at this point it's a tradition, and because people like Leomon, and he's always a selfless, justice-centered character that has a clean sense of morality, he's easy to raise the stakes.
You've got to raise the stakes, and the way to raise the stakes is to
kill
defeat
Leomon.
the knight in shining armor who people rely on.
Yeah. Because he's always probably the most morally sound character.
Well, it's because he's that knight character, right?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be sort of like an iconic representation of, this is what justice looks like in this setting.
Yeah. And here comes the big bad and exit stage left.
And now you have one dead Leomon.
And you have a dead Leomon.
You mean your quota filled?
Yes. So that's probably what I'm really going to talk about for this week. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to keep checking away at Digimon Survive, though, because I think, even though it does mean playing through the story again, and the story is already fairly repetitive as it is, I still want to see what the actual ending is. Huh. I didn't know that could happen in this game. A villager just got struck by lightning and died.
Well, I mean, it does happen.
Yeah. Vol, what you been doing?
It's been a rough week. I mean, Fern hasn't been here to hear me presaging it at great length, but I've sort of I've made it to the far end of the first week of my hellish fortnight that I had foreseen ahead of me. That being this week where there was no lab manager, and so that meant that I had to basically pick up the slack, despite already having a full plus schedule comprising, 2 and a bit people's work. So I basically have not played video games much at all this week. I haven't played anything other than tapping at my phone on a couple of occasions because I've just been too tired. I'll get home. Every day I'm working working away at work, and I'm like, when I get home, I'm going to play some Monster Hunter this time for sure. And then I get home, it's like, I have no energy, I can't move. And that's it. So, yeah, unfortunately, it is just the first half out of the way now, and my weekend is going to be cut short because tomorrow, which should also be my day off, I am, instead of having a day off, I am travelling up to Auckland at the other end of the country for corporate waste minimisation training, which I'm not looking forward to at all.
There's a certain irony in that.
Yeah, it's unbelievably expensive trip. I had the paperwork where I got to see how much it's actually costing to fly us up there, and it's not cheap. Not cheap at all. They must not have booked very far in advance. But, yeah, so I'm going to be out for several days. I'll have my phone with me, and I'll have my derelict laptop with me. Maybe I'll take my Switch as well, but I don't expect I'll have time to use it. But, yeah, it was, FGO was a, interlude week this week, so half AP interludes. I did a couple of interludes when I had some downtime, but not really anything terribly important. Shuten got her battery, which I guess is great, except that Shuten is the worst looper in the game, so not really useful. Good semi-support, but there are so many like powerful hard supports now that semi-supports aren't really that useful anymore. So basically the only thing that she's good for is whomping a single wave of riders if you have a one-wave fight, which is not very common outside of certain particular events. But yeah, so not much on the FGO front this week, but starting, well, I think tomorrow or the day after is what people are diligently referring to as Shisho Fest, because originally people referred to it as Scat Fest. Because it's Skaha's event.
Oh. So. Uh-oh. I think you've cut out again. Yeah, they're gone.
The show is recording to YouTube, right?
Well,
I have no idea.
It is, except when I can't hear you guys, neither can the show.
Yes. And
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
why your connection is so bad.
What is even going on? I'm going to just look at a couple of things while you're talking, so carry on.
Well, you need to let me know if I stop talking, because I won't know.
I'll let you know, that's alright.
But I don't know where I got cut off now. That's the thing.
Talk about Skaha.
Yeah, at any rate, so Shisho Fest is coming up, which is a lottery event, meaning monomaniacal farming. However, this is in the era of Castoria now, meaning that the farming nodes are very obtusely designed to mean you really got to bake your noodle trying to come up with some actual decent farming comps, because they'll have odd patterns like two units in the first wave, one in the second wave, 3 in the third, or whatever, so that you can't properly loop, because that would make it too easy. There are lower ranking nodes that will have conventional layouts that you can loop on, but it's not efficient to actually use them. So yeah, and apparently this is like most lottery events, most of the sort of mid-year lottery events as opposed to Christmas lottery events. It's divided into 3 sections, being a first, second, and a third sort of trimester of the event. And the first one is apparently incredibly difficult to farm. Like, the comps are really obtuse. You can do it, you can 3-turn it, but you need to have very specific setups and invested a lot of laws and skills and append skills, and have, like, there are comps you can do it without needing obnoxious things like MLBK scope and that sort of thing that you can only ever acquire by luck. But the big problem with this lottery event is that the lottery drop up CE is incredibly bad. It's incredibly bad. The only it provides no refund, NP refund, because it's a plus 8% buster, and it gives guts, meaning that you can't use Arash because he will survive, and he won't bring in the next servant in the queue. And you can't use Chen Gong because whoever he is sacrificing will survive, and you won't be able to bring in the next one in the queue. So there's lots of problems. Because normally those, like a Qingong comp, will work with, like, well, the supports will buff Qingong will sacrifice one of the supports, bring in another support that has NP charge to get Qingong up to NP again, and then he'll sacrifice another support, and like you'll just churn through your supports using Qingong, because that's how Qingong do. When you're Lu Bu's strategist, you take a very flexible approach to loyalty. But yeah, it's none of those tactics work this time, because there's a 1 HP guts attached to the CE that you need to have on everybody for lottery currency farming. So yeah, it's tactically a really difficult lottery farm to figure out. So I think most people will probably be doing their farming on the second and third phases. I've got some sort of like rough outlines of the sorts of comps I might like to use for the second and third one. Probably going to be quite Castoria heavy again, because that's just the most reliable way to do it right now. Although there are some very good buster comps which use Sanzang to generate the NP refund to enable looping rather than Castoria, because you need that sort of caster buster phase in order to take down an earlier wave of one. And so those are the other thing is that there's sort of like an inverse buff given depending on star rarity. So 5 stars will get 20% buff, 4 stars get a 30%, 3 get a 40%, 2 get a 50%, or something like that. I can't remember exactly which number it is, but it's in that sort of direction. But what that means is that a lot of farming comps this event use Jason. Like he's one of the premier saber farmers in this event, because he gets a huge buff, making his damage actually respectable, and he's capable of looping because his NP has so many hits.
But it's Jason. And it's gone again.
Internet bad.
Oh, there it is. Just popped back into existence.
I don't think that it's me. I don't think that it's Discord servers.
I have no idea what it is. So,
yeah, it's not showing the broadcast, right?
No.
Yeah, that means it's not getting to your Discord somehow.
Yeah.
The interferences between your Discord client and the Discord server, because the server is still serving me up to Ari, but not to you.
And I've noticed that you're not hearing me sometimes as well, Fern.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Not as often as Vol, but Vol's been talking a lot more than me.
Discord is just being Discord.
Anyway, yeah, Jason farming teams, now a thing. Don't expect to see it very often. But, yeah, I watched a 3/4 of an hour long video on the math of farming this event, and it works out that basically there are certain very key nodes that you should farm generally, and just don't worry about the gacha CEs or farming the other event currencies at all, because if you farm lotto currency at all, it's more efficient than actually trying to target shop clearing currencies. So at least the farming logic is relatively simple in this event. But the main event is Grailfront. So Grailfront is the new event style that they are debuting with Shisho Fest. And it's basically a hybrid of the battle system that is already in FGO up till this point, with a sort of like a rudimentary tactics combat. So the Grailfront will take place as sort of like, I think that the guff is roughly that basically Shisho thinks you're too soft and you need to participate in some simulated Grail wars in order to toughen up a bit. So that, because, I mean, as the protagonist of FGO, you've never fought in a Grail war before. You don't know how. And Grail wars are supposed to be the normal expression of absolute cutthroat mage-on-mage violence. So there's these simulated Grail wars, and basically it seems to take place on like a it's not quite a grid, but it's sort of like a series of interconnected nodes of sorts, and you are able to deploy. You appear on the grid as a master, and of course you've got to try and keep yourself safe by moving around. You get a certain amount of points to spend to move from node to node to node, and to attack with, and you can deploy servants as well. And so basically, some nodes will have buffs on them that you can pick up and carry with you, and move your servants around. And when they come into contact with another servant, you can spend points to attack them. And when you attack them, it will start a combat for, I think it's just one turn a time, and whoever, and I think it's a one turn for you, one turn for the enemy. When you initiate an attack, and whoever does the attacking takes the first turn, and the ones that will be involved will be all of the ones that are adjacent to the one being attacked and the one doing the attacking, that are attached to the adjacent nodes, and all of their like skill cooldowns and stuff will be carried between fights. So you can't just, romper stomp NP first turn every single fight, which is the way most people play the game at this point, when it's not a complex node. So yeah, it's a tactics game that apparently people found quite engaging, and has become one of the sort of staples that they will periodically deploy as a event mechanic. Unfortunately, this means I'm going to have to think. I'm not very good at thinking. Or rather, my capacity to think is usually exhausted by the time I'm firing up FGO. So, yeah. But, I'm interested to try out a new game mode. It's certainly got some flexibility to it, in what you can do. People have said that the reason that they like it is that it gives them the opportunity to use a lot of servants that they wouldn't use otherwise, because, bulk of FGO, you're farming. You want to build comps that are very effective at farming certain types of nodes. Whereas in this one, you need to have a lot of powerful all-rounder servants, and you'll be aiming to try and isolate your opponents, so single target servants will get a lot more play. So things that people have built up that they don't use all that much, like I've got Kirihime Lancer at 2000 out of 2000 foos, 10-10-10 skills, level 100, and NP5. But she's a single target Lancer, so doesn't usually get a lot of play, and she's also a Buster servant, so not really good at farming generally because of the basically non-existent NP refund, although she's got special properties that allow her to charge decent amounts of NP off Busters. But what she is actually good at is brawling, where NPs are not going to be flying left and right all the time, because her base stats are really, really good. Due to being a Berserker and therefore, being a Lancer who was a Berserker and therefore keeping Madness enhancement. But, so servants like her who are very good at brawling but not very good at efficiently dealing out big chunks of damage are going to get a lot more play in this, because you need to be able to do damage turn over turn, since your skills will be on cooldown if you blow them all the first time you come into contact with an enemy. So yeah, it's a different approach to the way the game's combat is played out, and I think that's why people found it so refreshing. But yeah, that's what's coming up this week in FGO. So unfortunately, I'm going to be sitting in a hotel room on what time I have as downtime, and I don't know how much downtime there'll be. It's a company trip involving a few people from my lab, but also a whole bunch of people from the Auckland lab and a few people from the Wellington lab. And I'm concerned that they're going to want us to be social, despite the fact that there's absolutely no utility to us being social. Like, Auckland and Christchurch labs don't get along as a rule. We've lost a lot of clients due to their inadequacies as human beings. At least that's how I'm going to put it. Because they've got a strong tendency to blame other people for their failings, and they've caused real issues for us as a result, because we subcontract a lot of chemistry work to them, mostly chemistry work, not so much micro work, but they as often as not screw things up, and then blame us for it, and then it will turn out, down the line that, mea culpa, it's actually our fault after all. But it's too late now because the client has already abandoned you. So, yeah, I'm not really that sanguine about it, and they really look down on the other labs as well. We get along a little bit better with Wellington, but that's sort of like mutual commiseration because Wellington's boss was our boss for a while and she's terrible, so... but yeah, I don't want to have to go to lots of company dinners. I just want to survive the week, to be honest. Because once the trip is over, I've got to get right back to work the next day, and I'm going to need all the gas I can salvage in my tank to survive the 2 busiest days of the week without any prep. At any rate, lots of cool stuff came out in Monster Hunter this week, but I have to leave it to Ari to talk about it because I was not able to play more than a tiny trace of it. Just the most minuscule amount.
We did do Seething Betelgeuse together.
We did. We did Seething Bagel Goose, and he is an angry boy.
Yes.
But he is also, like Bagel Goose tends to be, a very stupid angry boy who is a big target. So you'll get bounced around a lot if you get caught off guard, and a lot of bad things can happen. Like I carted very quickly into the fight because Bagel Goose chased me, he knocked me down. I fell off of a cliff in the process of getting knocked down, and it resulted in me standing in a corner which had walls on 3 sides, and Bagel Goose shook his scales, and they all landed in the corner, and so they just went pop, 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 and killed me, and I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, he carded before I even had a chance to get all the way down there.
I assume that Seething Bagel still has his signature juggling attacks.
Yes, you need to be very careful about them.
Yeah.
That said, if you do manage to avoid his crazy stuff and don't get bought by his bombs, if you can stick on him, he is so fat and takes so much damage and has predetermined giant explosions that knock him down. If you do enough damage is underneath his tail or his chin, you can really bully this guy.
Yeah, like what if you can get all in on his beard or his tail? I'm going to call it his beard because it looks like a beard.
It's pretty much a beard.
If you can go all in on that while he's glowing and make them explode while still attached to him, you get a lot of bonus damage. So if he can't shake you off, you can bully him quite efficiently. Unfortunately, most of his gear is trash. So, but yeah. I still enjoyed the fight. I like fighting Bagel Goose generally. I think that he's a fun fight, and one of the reasons I think he's a fun fight is that he's way more... Once you figure out how to fight him, he's way easier to fight with heavy bowgun than a lot of monsters because he's much more generous with the weak points. For some reason, projectiles have very few weak points compared to previously in this game. But Seething Bagel Goose has way more weak points than regular Bagel Goose does. Regular Bagel Goose... I can't remember which way round it is. I think he's weak in the tail when he's enraged, and he's weak in the face when he's not, or the other way around. I can't remember. Whereas Seething is weak in the tail and the face all the time. So you can always have a way of fighting him in practical terms. Yeah, he's an okay fight. He's an okay fight. He feels more or less like his version in World did. So there's not anything particularly enlightening there. But I haven't had a chance to dabble in any of the other 3 that they've added. Though I've heard people have said that they feel that Lucent Nagakuga's a bit too much of a wet noodle for a new monster.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll go into it more later.
Yeah, he needs some roids. And the other 2 are powerful but quite manageable if you watch yourself. Except, of course, they exist for the inevitable fight where you fight them both at once.
Yeah. So. The metal rats are kind of a mainstay at this point.
They, I'll talk about it more when we get.
They also have, they've got. I've heard undocumented features. Like they have armor that you can break. Basically, their metal plating takes very little damage, but when they're heated up, you can deal a lot of damage to it and shatter it, and then they will take damage at a high rate all the time on that spot.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But your base damage, like apparently what most people experience is that they complain that their base damage just seems really weak compared to normal against the Wraiths, and it's because their metal plating counts as armor, and if you break a spot, then they will be softened up, and you'll be able to do more damage to that spot.
Right. So this is a good time for me to interject with them, I guess. I'll give you my experience with them. The Gold and Silver Rathalos are very similar to their world counterparts. They're like normal Rathalos and Rathian, except they have super fire moves they can do when they're heated up, and
Like
no
Apex
matter what.
Rathalos?
Yeah, except even bigger, and they take more
It's
damage.
bigger than that. It was able to nuke most of an area.
Yeah, it's about that or a bit bigger is what the current one is like. You can only fight them in one support survey each. For each one, there's a separate one for each one, or the generic solo or the generic master quest where you fight them that at 6-star, where you fight them in the new arena that got released this patch. So that's your options for fighting them. In the arena, they're obviously a lot harder because you don't have the ability to go run around and collect hunting buddies or go collect helpers to come and beat them up.
But you
That
get all
can be
your birds
encouraged.
off the bat, at least.
Yeah, you do get all your birds off the bat. And to make up for that, arena monsters do have more health when I looked it up, by about 25% sometimes.
I suppose
If-
because you don't have to chase
if-
them.
No, because you don't have to waste time running around looking for bugs or
Also
sphere
that.
birds. So they can be about 20-25% chunkier. It varies depending on the monster and the quest. Some of them don't have a health buff, but it looked like most of them did at the cursory glance I took. I didn't exactly, spreadsheet this. I eyeballed it from a few examples. But the other thing they have is the same thing they had in World, where they have a chance to do any of their usual attacks twice. And you have to learn the animation tell that says, okay, he's not done yet. So if he does a lot of, how Rathalos and Rathian have the little spin they do sometimes, where they'll just quickly whip around?
They usually do that twice in succession.
Yeah, they will almost always do it twice as silver and gold. And they can, a bunch of their basic claw swipes and stuff, instead of just doing them once or doing a 1-2, they'll do it twice or do a 1-2-3-4, which will just be a loop of the first two hits in quick succession. I remember that from World happening a lot, so that's fairly normal. And their fire attacks are, when they're in the air, seem completely different in the way you need to dodge them, but once you get them down, they're just, this is where the fire attack's going to go. They do hit fairly hard. Get your fire resist dongo. You're going to need it. But if you've got a fire resist dongo, these guys aren't going to kill you. Well, they might kill you if you get stuck in a bad spot and you get womboed, because I assume the Rathalos still has the wombo, even if I haven't got it yet and gotten owned by it yet. But unless you get hit by one of their wombos or stuck in a corner or you're in a bad spot, you shouldn't really have too much trouble with them. They do have a truckload of HP, though, and take forever to kill, and that's the only problem with them. And why I haven't farmed Silver Rathalos for his set, because I want some of his pieces.
I'm actually really keen to get some of Gold's pieces. Like I love playing defensive sets generally, and there's a lot of cool defensive utilities on Gold Wrath set. Not to mention that chest piece has all the ranks of Divine Blessing on it straight out the bat, which will save me 2 slots on my gear. So yeah, I'm really interested.
Good.
Yeah. I'm really interested to have a tinker with that. Also, I'm interested in seeing whether I can get some mileage out of Lucent Nagakuga's weapons, because I play defensively generally. Poison tends to be quite good with defensive weapons, because while you've got lots of time on target, so you can apply effects, you don't do as much damage when you're playing in a heavily defensively built set. So poison's generally quite good, Lucent Nagakuga's got weapons all have poison on it because he's a poison beast. But yeah, I suppose I've seen a little bit of footage of Gold Rathian and how she fights, and I feel like there's sort of a missed opportunity to do some revisions there, because they're not quite the same as their world counterparts. But I feel like they could have put a little bit of Apex Rathian in her, I think. because Apex Rathian has some interesting abilities that. Well, Apex Rathian's basically gone unused now, hasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, all the Apex. There aren't any of the Apexes in Master Rank, as far as I know, unless they pop up after Master Rank 100.
Which is see.
Oh, there you go again. And we wait. And we wait. Sorry guys, yeah, it's still exploding. Whoop, hang on, are we back?
Why
Say
can
something?
why can
There you
we
are.
hear him perfectly, but he can't hear us?
I have no idea.
Like, it's not a connection thing because your transmission is perfect.
Yeah, I'm still getting full green bars. It's just every now and again,
It's your
we just go.
your sound drivers are mad at Discord.
No, it's not even the sound drivers. It's not even making it that far. So,
Yeah, check for a Discord update and change Discord's output from default to the device you want it to listen to.
I've already done that because it was
And
derping earlier.
I don't know what is going on, and I don't know how to fix it. And Discord gives funny names to all of its settings, so I can't really intuit it either.
And they can't
Yeah.
leave well
Anyway.
enough alone because they keep moving them around.
yeah, I'm here to tell you, when you're setting up a new PC and you re-download Discord with no settings, oh boy,
Oh boy. Incidentally,
good luck
did
trying to find
Right.
anything.
they take away the ability to move a server's location?
I don't think so. I think I can still do it
Give it a go.
if I go.
If you can find it.
Roles, emojis, stickers, widget.
It used to be an
CD
overview.
Safety on it. It did used to be an overview.
Yeah, not there now.
Huh? Maybe they
Yeah.
want to do everything automatically and not allow you able to be.
That doesn't make any sense. Integration, stickers, emoji, roles, overview.
You think you want
Uh,
to be able to choose, but you don't.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. That, well, knowing them, they probably stuck it somewhere.
Behind the
Like, if I go
paywall,
to
quite
edit-
possibly.
This says my ping is 43 milliseconds. I don't have a 43 millisecond ping to anywhere.
I have a 230 millisecond, so
Yeah, I have
What?
216.
So,
So-
obviously it's picked a New Zealand server.
yeah, it's probably picked the Auckland servers.
I don't know how I would find out about that.
Well, normally you'd go into overview and you'd take it there, but it's not there no more.
Well, they have made this very troublesome in a lot of ways.
That used to be the thing with Discord voice chat. 9 times out of 10, if you change the server location, it would fix the problem.
This is. Well, I'm afraid I don't know. Like, if I. Will you guys switch automatically to another server if I drop channel? Like, I don't know how it works.
I don't either.
Maybe?
On the same server.
Yeah, I don't think that worked.
I'll
Oh,
switch it to-
well, I think we just struggle through for now.
Discord, why do you have to be this way?
Because they hate us.
We may just have to move over to Gilded or something for recording. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But
Well, maybe we should do that anyway, because Discord is...
Oh, it's
boy.
in the you change it by chat channel, not for the whole server now.
Okay.
So you right click on, like, we're in the Tartarus channel right now because I forgot to put us in the high bitrate channel, and
that's why it's not working.
and you can see it there, and it's got right now we're in Sydney.
Yeah.
This voice chat.
But
And if I
I
go-
connect to Sydney better than you do.
Eh? So anyway, we'll try that and see if that works.
Like, if we
Yeah, I
just
mean-
go down to the recording channel, where's that set to?
Sydney as well, because
Yeah.
I think I had the whole server set to Sydney and it moved it.
It moved some of it anyway. Oops.
It helps if I click the right channel when I'm dragging people instead of dumping you both in the AFK channel.
Yeah, there we go. This is most professional.
Yeah, it's totally fine for my connection, but I don't think that this is very practical. Anyway, don't really have much choice right now but to mush on.
Crack out the duct tape and go from there.
Yeah, what was I talking about?
Where were we?
Oh,
up
we were
to?
talking about Monster Hunter.
Yes.
So, so the new monsters are in. I feel like Apexes are a waste to not have them used more because they were cool fights. I like them. They were very scary, and I think that that's a good thing. Like, I anticipate fights more when the monster is terrifying to fight. But, yeah.
Yeah,
But other features they've put in, I like the way they've done the curio crafting thing for weapons. That makes sense. The thing for armor doesn't make sense. Like maximum RNG.
It's got to be there somewhere.
You can actually lose skills on armor, can't you?
Yeah, you can make armor significantly worse, but I'm not quite sure exactly how it works because I haven't had a chance to tool around with it because I have not had the time to farm anything, so I can't really try it out. But it does add some latitude, I guess. But basically, the gist of it is that it turns every single piece of your armor into a talisman.
Right.
So you can just roll forever until you get the skills you want if you've got the time to farm. Honestly, I feel like I'm not likely to do more than just dabble in it a little. But the rates at which you get skills and like the rarity and frequency with which you're going to get good skills is also inversely proportional to the rarity of the armor, with one exception that Ibushi and Nawa's armor can't be modified, I don't think.
Those armors are stupid already as it is.
Well, they're stupid in that they're bad generally. The issue is that they can't afford a situation where you can seed that armor set with a single rank of a whole bunch of skills that are actually good and then use the skill amplification thing to jack them up.
Yeah.
So that's why those ones are locked, presumably. But yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of sticking more RNG in. I think that the talismans were a adequate dose of RNG on top of the RNG of getting parts to begin with, that I don't think that they needed to make every piece of gear into a talisman. But man, if some people like that, that's fine. There's a lot of latitude to just do what you want in Monster Hunter. I feel like that system will just be more encouragement to the PC players to jack their games up with cheats. So yeah, the PC environment's always going to be toxified by that. There's not really much you can do about it. But yeah, and they've also added a sort of like a scaling difficulty mode of sorts, it seems. But I don't really understand how it works because I haven't had a chance to try it out. But yeah, it seems that as you proceed through the master ranks, you get higher and higher ranked anomaly quests to do with tougher and tougher monsters. So, I mean, that's going to give a lot of longevity to it. I don't know how they can possibly follow up on a patch of this size on a monthly basis with something of equal magnitude. I almost hope they don't try because it would be too difficult for their people, because they deployed a lot in this patch. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Yeah. Maybe not quite as much stuff as Yoshi P's team is planning to deploy this week.
Yeesh, yes.
But still a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, at least the stuff that they're deploying this week in Final Fantasy, they had it's been in the works for like a year.
Probably longer than that. A lot of the stuff has been in the works since long before Ian Walker came out. Long time.
Mm.
I mean, as you will have seen previously, they've talked about the stuff that they're going to be deploying in the expansion after next. So
yeah, they're playing ahead.
Well, I mean, they plan that far ahead, and you look at how efficiently their workflow rolls out compared to Blizzard.
Yeah.
Who have they always claim that they work ahead, but it's very evident that they don't in the execution.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Yeah, and from what it sounds like, they're continuing to repeatedly clown up the development of Dragonflight. Even some of the people who have been simping for it are starting to get cold feet.
The hopium is running out.
Yeah, and it's running out because while they are communicating a lot more with the player base, they're still ignoring the player base's opinions.
Yeah, which is probably worse.
Yeah, they've done a lot of things that just make classes feel worse to play. Like the ones that are, last I heard, are complaining the most right now are Rec Pellies, who are often are the ones complaining the loudest historically.
It's
but
what they do.
they took away long arm of the law, which basically means that paladins can't really get close anymore except on a really long cooldown,
Ugh.
and their mobility is now back in the toilet. Like, long arm of the law was the solution to their mobility problems for the longest time, and they've just got rid of it for no adequately explained reason. And there's another big debacle on where they nerfed Saw, which is the new racial for the new Scaly class. I'm going to call it a Scaly class because the actual name is even dumber. But the Saw thing being able to basically, you can fly using your wings on a cooldown in the mode of the dragon riding, and you can use this anywhere in the world, which people thought was incredible great fun since it allows you to move at bonkers speeds all over the world. And everybody was saying it's not really fair to restrict this to a race, so just let everybody use dragon riding everywhere day one. You might as well. I mean, what have you got to lose? The only thing that you're going to lose is the ability to deprive people of fun. But as we all know, that's Blizzard's favourite thing.
They do that.
So they, instead of doing that, they just nerfed Saw to make it move slower. And now that would have been bad enough, but the justification they gave was apparently that it would make it too efficient for people to do their pet battles and farm old dungeons.
What?
Which is the most nonsensical justification they could possibly give.
We have flying mounts for that. We can already do it.
These flying mounts are like roughly 4 times faster.
Yeah.
So the thing is that that's totally not the reason, right? When somebody gives a reason that's such obvious bullcrap, you know it's not the true one.
Mm-hmm.
Which means what they ultimately, what I take from that is that no matter what they have consistently been saying to the contrary, both this time and previously, they do not take the opinions of the player base seriously. And they do not respect the players enough to tell them to their face, oh, well, actually we dialed this back because we're just not quite comfortable with how small it makes the world feel. Which is probably that. That's probably the reason, right?
Yeah, see, that's a better reason.
And it would be more respectful to tell the players we aren't comfortable with the effect that this has on the size of the world, so we're dialing back a little bit. Instead, they came out with a complete pile of crap about how, oh, we don't want people to be able to farm old dungeons for transmogs faster.
Yeah. So even when the actual reason is, you know, something that the player base would accept and probably support, they can't help themselves.
Yeah, it's just that contempt for the player base is what drove people away, and it's what will continue to drive people away with the way they are going.
Yep.
But yeah, Yoshi P doesn't seem to have this problem, and I don't think I've ever seen such an anticipated patch before.
Yeah, the hype is real.
Yeah.
It's the combination of the player numbers being up and in general, just people are getting a whole lot of stuff. The most hype thing is still 800 slots in the Glamour Dresser.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, people are still really hyped about everything else though as well. I think that in addition to the fact that there's just a lot of cool stuff coming, they've managed the patch hype cycle really well. Like, they've paced the information release really well to keep people still enjoying what they're doing, but in a heightened state of anticipation. And they've managed to pay this out the entire time since launch. People have been anticipating each patch that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a real good job of managing that without being like overtly cynical about inspiring hype. It comes off very naturally because, well, I think that the big difference really is that most of the WoW devs can't be bothered playing WoW, but most of the FF devs play FF in their free time. So
yeah. And going through this patch specifically, putting aside all the new raw content that's coming out, like the Island Sanctuaries and the new raids and stuff, yeah, people are excited for those, but it's new content. People are always going to be excited for that. For the other stuff,
I'm excited for no aggro ticks on regens.
You have no idea how happy that makes me as an Astro. But for all the other system stuff and all the changes and updates to the game itself, it seems, I think every change I saw in there was like, oh, that's pretty good, or it was, well, we'll see, that could be decent. Or I could see why they would do that. I think there was only one very minor thing where I was like, I don't know about that. There was no stinkers in the patch notes.
I think that the big reason that this is such an anticipated smash hit is that this patch basically contains something for every conceivable part of the player base.
Yep.
Because I mean, like, if you're a casual, then what your concern is doing things easily, and they're adding more scenarios that you can play with AIs and that sort of thing. So that's good for casuals who don't want to socialize with people. If you're like super into doing dungeons, there's new raid tier coming out. If you're for raids, if you're into doing dungeons, there's a new dungeon system that's going to be coming out shortly, not just yet, but very shortly. If you're into transmogs, we doubled the size of your dresser. You can get more glamours, fill it up with glamours,
plus
do all of the fashion shows you want.
Yeah, we're even removing the restrictions on a bunch of sets, so anyone can equip them. Go nuts.
You're into PvP, I'm bringing back Rival Wings. You can do that again.
Yep.
No matter, and that's not getting into the Island Sanctuary, which I think everybody's probably going to at least dabble in just to figure out what it is.
It just looks like so chill.
There's going to be a certain segment of the player base who make that the entire game for them from now on, because people are like that.
Yeah.
But like, they've just managed to stick something in there to tickle everyone's fancy.
Yep. Like, more main story, more Hildebrand, Lopper at Can. I mean, you keep naming things. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been a real bonanza season for patches with Sunbreak and FF. So
yeah, we haven't even seen the job changes yet. Actually, I think that's coming out later today or possibly tomorrow.
I'd sort of like I'm not too hot on job changes because there are some jobs that badly need changes. It's true.
Yeah.
And there are some jobs that will probably get scaled back. I expect Warrior will be clobbered in the ghoulies by the nerf bat in one way or another, because they're just too dominant at things that are supposed to be impossible right now.
Yeah.
The thing is that they might not. The reason they might not is that those things aren't actually corrosive to gameplay, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
They if anything, what would need to be overhauled is the healing design philosophy, I think, because healers don't do very much anymore in small group content.
Yeah.
It's usually if the healer is actually having fun, it means something has gone terribly wrong.
Yeah, it is the tank's job to keep themselves alive, and the incidental hots they get will be enough. And there are like 2 tank busters in trial and dungeon content in the entire game where I might have to throw an instant on the tank if I'm feeling really not safe with him because he's not pushing other buttons to keep himself alive.
Aristeel basically wakes up for warm glow and spends the rest of the time asleep. But
yeah, I spend the majority of my time in a dungeon trying to optimize card use.
But most fun that I have had as a healer are always like in alliance raids when in my mind Yakety Sax starts to play.
Yeah.
Then everything has gone completely sideways, and it's down to the healers to try and haul the fat out of the fire. That was one of the reasons I enjoyed playing Red Mage as well. And I remember we had a comedic round of Tower of Paradigm's Reach one time.
Oh yeah.
Where it was basically a long experience of Arya and I trying to rescue the entire raid from untimely demise.
And good gravy, some of them were in love with the floor.
But yeah, that's sort of the problem though. Like, philosophically, that's the problem, is that healers have fun when everybody else is terrified and everything is going wrong. And that's not really ideal, because their DPS gameplay is not exactly engaging, and there's not really support gameplay outside of dropping that odd heal and rotating the odd damage cooldown. So yeah, I think that they probably need to do a heavy rethink on healing as a philosophical matter. And I'm talking of the magnitude of like the way that they rethought MMO crafting. Like, I think that the healing job needs to be a more involved thing and experience in and of itself, rather than just topping up the bars once every minute. So I don't know. No way of knowing if they'll properly investigate that or what. But that's because that's the sort of magnitude of change required in order to really shake up the way things go. I'm not really that worried about job changes, because they'll probably just be minor potency adjustments to serve the 1%.
Yeah, the two
participating in the top tier.
The one class that I would say could really use some love because they clearly didn't get quite the full sweep up with Endwalker would be Astro, but they already said they're delaying that for a bit to do a bit of reworking again because everybody likes Shadowbringers Astro better.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody likes Shadowbringers Astro better, but Astro is still by far the most powerful healer, which sort of gives them a sticky wicket to deal with.
Yeah, they've got to tone down some of the potency of our the Earthly Star is ginormous now, heals for a ton and deals a ton of damage. They probably need to kill the potency on that. And but then you have other things like why does Undraw exist? Why is Crown Play 2 separate buttons when we're already on controller having to cut buttons from the bar because we don't have enough space for everything?
This is what I say when it comes to like rethinking healing as a whole. Like, if you are going to keep the healing model the way it is now, where healing is an emergency service provided by the healers, then a massively expanded card gameplay would be the way to go. Like, if you go back to... I don't know if you played original Astrologian. Did you?
Yeah, where each card had... no, I didn't.
Yeah, I dabbled it in I dabbled in it a little bit. It was extremely deep, and Astrologians were a bad healer class because of the amount of work that was required to put in back then. Back when healers still had to heal on the regular, because tanks were way less self-sufficient.
Yeah. It's going to take a lot of the sustain they've given tanks. They're going to have to get rid of some of that too, to make the healers have to actually heal them.
You could do that, but I think that if you want to keep tanks as like... For a lot of people, the tank fantasy is a very one-man army one, not a, oh, well, I need to have the symbiotic relationship with the healer who is stapled to my hip in order to survive. I think that there is a model where you could go with the tank is just given all the tools to survive the boss and the boss alone. And if they manage themselves right, then they are able to position the boss, they are able to get through all the tank busters, they are able to restore their own health. Building out like a depth of mechanics surrounding that is unique to each tank is going to be a job, and they have gotten a little bit too much homogeneity right now, but I think you could do it. I think you could conceivably come up with a model where single target damage, tank management, and boss positioning is just the tank's job, and in that paradigm you would move the healer's job to something else, which is keeping the group standing, patching up people's health, because I mean, other than tanks, most classes don't have excellent self-sustain unless they're a heavy support-leaning class. And then what you would bolt onto that is that you would have your very deep card gameplay, like, because if you expand the card gameplay thing back to where it was and then build on it a bit more, then what you have is a class play system that is all built around supporting the right people at the right time with the right abilities, and that becomes your play style. But I think that you could do something like that in a rethink of the way it operates.
You probably could, but the only thing with that is, right now there is Astro that has the card gameplay for a support diversion, and that's not just, spamming Malefic.
But what I'm saying is take that as the model of what you should be doing. You go back to the way Astrologian once was, where they had to do 2 jobs at the same time, except now one of those jobs has been dramatically reduced because of the healing environment. So you can expand the other job to be the primary thing that they do, and then use that as a template for the sort of activity level that should be being done on the side by the other healers.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how you deal with that, and I'm not a game designer. So that's why, because if I had all the ideas, I would be on the design team, but I don't. So but I think that is something that you could do with supports in general in FF if you want to stick to this model, because I don't think that tanks would be happy either if they just went back to being bad DPS who are desperately hoping to get a heal sometime within the next few seconds.
Yeah.
Like the mitigation model is very, very different in FF compared to what it was when I was last really seriously playing World of Warcraft, and even in the times earlier than that. Like in Rulers of Draenor, there was a very highly active form of tanking where you were almost countering boss abilities. Like you were built around very short cooldowns, though the way you sort of got a flavour of in things like bloodwetting, and you would drop that short cooldown, it would last just a few seconds, because you had been able to anticipate the next move that's going to come in as a priority. So we'll drop some resources here, mitigate that one by a big chunk, and then you were like looking for move upon move that would come out at a reasonable pace and mitigating them each in turn, rotating the correct cooldowns of the correct magnitude for each one. And because of that, you were dramatically affecting how much effort your healer had to put into you. This current paradigm is a step further in that direction, where the healer is almost unnecessary for bosses. And the previous paradigm, like the old school paradigm, was one where the tank really had no powers. The only thing they could do is move the boss around and hold threat. I don't think anybody actually wants to go back to that.
The other thing about
either they need to make that boss management the whole job for the tank alone, or they need to find a happy medium.
Yeah, the other thing about healing in Final Fantasy right now is because Final Fantasy is just set up this way, with clearly telegraphed markers and the boss's obvious casts for all its abilities that do just do generic damage or do damage to a specific target. Damage is very binary. It's happening or it's not to everybody.
Yeah, like if you do the dance correctly, like correctly, the healer shouldn't have anything to do.
Yeah, like there will be the unavoidable damage that the aspected Helios Hot will return you to full health from, and that's about it. And so in groups where everybody is on the ball, you don't ever have to push the heal button except to undo AOE damage, or the random bit of damage you might throw an instant out.
Yeah, which is, it's like we said, like the most fun is often had in things like alliance raids where everything is falling apart all the time because everybody in an alliance raid can be relied upon to be a total clown.
Yeah, you're always looking for somebody to rescue, literally, in alliance raids because somebody's going to be dumb, or you're looking for you're trying to frantically get the tank back up. The only raid content that's not an alliance raid that consistently challenges you as a healer is A9, Alexander 9. Because the damage that the tank takes in that fight is so colossal relative to everything else in it that you cannot afford to not tunnel vision the tank. And you will have to go through phases where you are spamming your single target heal. And
that's very exceptional. There's
but that is the only fight like that. That's the only fight like that where the tank just gets absolutely clobbered.
Yeah, I think that there's latitude where they can just, cut the effectiveness of the entire DPS contingent by 15% and give management of that 15% over to the healers, so that healer play helps the group clear as a whole, without forcing them to do nothing but focus on spamming gravity or spamming ruin or whatever it is that they do these days.
Whatever's hip with the kids this expansion.
Like, as a scholar, I'm just like broil, biolysis, broil. Like, it's just not really. Like, if I've led with a big shield, because it's an anticipatory mitigation class. If I lead with a big shield, then the first part of the fight I'm doing nothing, literally nothing, because nothing's going to punch through that. I knew I wasn't going to need it any time in short order, so I blew it all up front, and now I can just broil, because there's really not much else I can do. But there's not really a good reason why it should be that way. Like, it's not. There's a lot of like leftover tools that aren't really needed. Like, how many times are you going to hit that Sinistry button?
It's not on my bar, so no.
Yeah, so just gut that out. Put something more fun in.
Like, I don't have the button economy for it. Even if it turns out to be super great, I'm going to have to fire another button for it because Astros are so bloated with useless crap right now.
Yeah, that's what most people are afraid of for this coming patch, though, is that they will try and economize buttons and do it wrong, like they did with Samurai.
Yeah, they, most of our buttons do something cool and are fun, but then we have things like Crown Play and Minor Economy and two different buttons. Astros are okay to economize buttons on, because we just have too dang many, and a lot of these are obvious smashes together. Undraw can just be flat gotten rid of. Draw and Play can be two separate buttons, since we'll just wait to... No, actually, no, you can't do that with the way it's set up right now. I would like if they could find a way to make Draw and Play one button by reworking the system a little bit, but they're not going to, because the way it works right now with a limited number of shuffles, you can't do anything with that. So you do need them as separate buttons. You didn't for Shadowbringers, but for this one you do. But yeah, you don't need Undraw. Sinistry basically does nothing, and outside of a few select Savage content or Savage raids, nobody pushes that button, despite how much the Savage raiders will tell you how great it is in specific fights. 99% of the player base never hits that button. Minor Arcana and Crown Play need to be one button. Why does Celestial Intersection even still exist? The shield is so minor. It's just a throwback to us. We used to have 2 sex guys.
I have to say, I also just don't like the gameplay loop of Horoscope. Like,
I didn't at first, but it's grown on me.
it feels like I'm being trolled 99% of the time. Like, I don't have control.
The trick is to pop it early and just use it as an OGCD heal for the whole raid.
Anyway.
So you set it up, and you just pop it whenever then AoE damage goes out, and let the star be the one that always trolls you, because it'll always go off right before the AoE goes out.
Anyway, we've got massively sidetracked, so I'm going to call it into my week here.
Alright. There ain't much for my week, despite how much Monster Hunter I played.
Alright, well, blast through it now. We've got a chonk and email, and then a few newslets.
So, okay. My week, I logged on, did roulettes in Final Fantasy about 3-4 times this week, maybe. I think it was 2 or 3, actually. Aside from today. And that was really all I did in Final Fantasy this week. Not a whole lot. I made a Google Doc table for my animal weapons, so I don't have to... so I can keep track of how much crap I'm buying with tomestones, because I've got all the gear that I needed from tomestones eons ago, and was just buying animal weapon stuff to dump my tomestones so they weren't rotting. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I've got 233 Umbrite and 83 Singing Clusters and 54 Numite and 7 Archaic Enchanted Inks just chilling in my bags. But I don't know how many of these I actually need for everything. So I sat down and I made a Google Doc for it. And now it's all together there. And I don't have to worry about overcapping that. Did run around and do some fates in the Heavensward areas to farm up the very first quest of the Anima Chain. Requires you to go to do fates in each zone and get a crystal that's a 33% drop from each zone and each.
Yeah, thankfully they nerfed that over what it used to be. Yeah,
and you need one of each element of the 6 elements for every class.
Yeah,
so I went ahead
in about an hour.
Yeah, so I went ahead and went out and did that because I also wanted to get Bitter Memories of the Dying so that I could move up to the next step on my I think it's Gunbreaker that I'm taking through Resistance Weapons, so that I'm on the step where you have a chance to get the item you need every floor of Palace of the Dead, every floor set of Palace of the Dead, because we were doing it a lot for the show, and I'm like, I really want that step of the quest active, so if we're just running Palace for funsies, I can get progress on that. And just as long as you have the quest accepted, you can over-collect the amount you need. So I wanted some weapon on that step in case we go back to Palace. So, but to do that, I had to move all of my weapons up a quest, so I didn't lose the quests where you collect relic weapon stuff for other miscellaneous activities. Because I like to try and keep them all in my log, so I can just constantly be collecting this stuff as I'm doing other miscellaneous stuff like roulettes. Like, you're not going to get Bitter Memories of the Dying farming Southern Front. It's going to take you a million years. You have to get them through certain level 60 and 70 dungeons and through the Crystal Tower raid series. So the easiest way to do that is just to always have that quest in your log, and then every time you get Circus Tower, which is like every day, it seems like, from Alliance Raid Roulette, you'll be guaranteed to get a Loathsome Memory of the Dying or whatever it is. And you get one Bitter Memory of the Dying. Actually, you need 6 of those, and you get 1 per day from Leveling Roulette. And since I always do that one, I just wanted you need the quest always there. But to do this, you need a different weapon at every single step as you're walking up. So when you finish one step, when you're ready to move up, you have to move all your other weapons up one step as well, so that you always have all the quests. So if you're trying to maximally economize your time spent with progress being actively made, it takes a bit of work there. And that's why I had to go farm 20 more of the 3 memory types in Heavensward, because for some reason they made the drops from Southern Front on these things like less than 50%. So you're not going to get them in Southern Front at any time, in a timely fashion anyway. So just go turn into a blue mage and go deep freeze, ultra vibrate your way through a bunch of fates. Takes no time at all.
Oh my.
And yeah, so did that and got that unlocked. So now if we do Palace of the Dead during the show, I actually will have an objective to do as many floor sets as we possibly can, so that I can get as many of the Time Worn relics as I can. There is a Heaven on High step as well, but it's much further down the track.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all for Final Fantasy I did. Monster Hunter. I talked about Silver and Gold, Rathalos, and Rathian already. They're not much more to add to them. I didn't have any trouble with them at all on Dual Blades, other than it took forever to get that stupid tail off, and then it took forever to kill them, and it took me like 35 minutes per kill.
Yeah. But then we haven't built like the sort of super optimized gear that most people have.
No, I'm still using the same Rathalos set plus earplug. Oh no, I have earplugs on the Rathalos set. That's why I'm using the Rathalos set. And then like I have a chain crit talisman that I have, I think, defense boost level 4 in. So that's pretty good. It's not the best, but it's pretty good. And then there's I'm alternating my weapons to the element they're weak to, but because they're not. That's about all I do. I don't have any of the optimized damage stuff. I still have defense boost level 5 on my gear. I still have all kinds of defensive stuff all over. I still have rank 3 stun resist. Rank 4 earplugs. I'm still running stuff like that so that I can play safer. So. My damage is not as high as it could be, and I haven't fully upgraded all my weapon types yet. Dragon's still my weakest, which is unfortunate for some of them. Not for Rathian, though. Rathian's immune to Dragon, so that's fine.
A lot of people assume that Rathian is weak to the same thing as Rathian, and then they take Dragon in for their first fight, and then they find out that they're not doing any elemental damage.
Rathian just kind of goes, ah!
It's water, right?
I can tell you real quick.
I think it's water.
I have a website for this stuff now because I have to change my element so much. Yes. Water, lightning, and ice it's weak to in that order. And it's fairly weak to all three, but it's super weak to water. Gold, that's Rathalos, sorry. Rathian, it's immune, and Rathalos is immune to dragon and fire. It just doesn't take any damage. And then if I go to Gold Rathian, same deal, but for some reason its torso has a very slight... It can be affected by fire. It's not immune to it.
Right.
But it's the bare minimum amount, which is 5.
Well, I mean, you've got to look for the thresholds usually. Like I can't remember. They have depending on the skills. There are 2 skills. One has a threshold to, like, you know how I think what is it? Weakness Exploit is a threshold of 20, and Ellenbane is a threshold of 25, I think is how it goes, in order to get their bonus damage to trigger. Yeah. But I don't think that's documented anywhere, though, so don't count on me to be correct about that.
If you're playing Dual Blades, the new Wirebug move that's basically a much faster and instant and safer Demon Dance is... it will only latch on to the monster at a point that has a hit rating of 25 for its weakest element, is what a general rule of thumb I followed. I think, well, it might be 20, actually. I'd have to double check. But, yeah. So, yeah. They're not too much to write home about. They do have a whole lot of moves with their fire stuff that's you see as the fight goes on, but I've only fought them once, and I was not, I was focused more on just trying to get the tail off and get my first kill on them, rather than intensively documenting everything in my brain that they were doing. So I only have general notes in my head about the stuff that I really noticed. So also bring your Farcaster if you're fighting in the arena. Don't forget to grab it out of the box. You will run out of potions. If you play like I do anyway. You will run completely out of potions, in fact. Twice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sort of that weird paradox of afflicted monsters, where you tend to use less potions, but they're much more dangerous.
Yeah, as a dual blade user, it is There is a decision-making process with afflicted monsters where this guy hits hard enough, the next attack will kill me. Or, if I can just get one drill on his head, I'll be back at full HP.
Yeah, it's basically afflicted monsters have made me switch over almost completely to Surge Slash because I'm bad at countering. You have to really learn monsters to be good at countering, and if you do, then you're going to be getting those 2-minute kills. But
I think the countering focus on a lot of weapons for this expansion was a big mistake.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But it's like, well, I mean, it's an easy way to not have to deal with earplugs anymore, I guess.
But yeah, the big reason is because elevation is so janky in Sunbreak, especially compared to World, that you have no idea whether that monster is going to actually count as hitting you or not. And I noticed this all the time back when I had a few stacks of evade window and was trying to run Blade Scale Hone. So I always had the Soapbind skill active that gives you sharpness back when you dodge with your weapons out. I would clearly dodge through an attack. I would very clearly not take damage or any hit stun from the attack. And it would also not count because I didn't dodge through at the right elevation. And I imagine counters work the same way.
Yeah, I haven't had too much trouble with counters other than the fact that just stopping dead and not moving is something that monsters don't anticipate. Like most of their movesets are designed for somebody who's moving. So often if I'm preparing for something and I counter, unless I've been preparing for a great deal of time, the monster will just whiff. It keeps happening. It's very frustrating. But yeah, I like the way the counter feels on some classes, but I don't on others. Like I think that the counter shot for heavy bowgun is really good. It's got a very generous counter window, but it's very you plant yourself very firmly in a particular location, and that's just the way the weapon plays. Like you're supposed to be sort of setting yourself up as a gun emplacement of sorts, and I feel like it meshes with the playstyle very well. But while Strong Arm Slash is a satisfying way to play Greatsword, I suppose, because it pays huge dividends for mastery of a particular fight, I feel like it's not very Greatsword. Like this, it feels like, oh well, you're being a longsword, but you got given such big numbers that now you can outdo longsword. And I think that the approach to countering that Greatsword had before, which was shoulder charging through damage, which would give you super armor and some damage reduction, so that you could continue with what you were doing, is more in keeping with the Greatsword playstyle than rooting yourself in place and countering, which I just don't think is very Greatsword at all. It's widely disagreed with at the moment, but I think that that's because people are enamored of the enormous damage numbers you can get out of Strong Arm Slash. Like even on heavily defensive builds like mine, I can easily sort of like start to scratch numbers up around 2000 with it, sort of thing. It's just I don't want to play that way, which is why I use Surge Slash, because it meshes better with afflicted monsters due to the higher frequency of hits and the less cooldown time between strikes. But yeah, it's I don't like a lot of the mechanical directions they've gone in, and I hope that a lot of it doesn't stick. I like some of the sort of conceptual ideas, but yeah, I think that they overdid it a bit. Like they're definitely having fun in their sandbox, and I can see the utility of that because they have the opportunity to learn a lot of lessons from Rise and Sunbreak that they can bring to the like Monster Hunter 6. Is 6 the number we're up to?
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah. But the individual changes, I think, like the Rise and Sunbreak feel like they're done with player mechanics what they did with monster mechanics in Frontier, sort of thing, where they've just tried every wacky thing that they can come up with. But yeah, I don't know. I think they need to ground themselves a little bit more for the next main series entry, and go back to some of the core things. Like if they want to add lots of wacky abilities, they should just bring in another weapon type, and they can go wild with that and refine that. I mean, there have been plenty of other weapon types in Monster Hunter's history. It's just that we've been stuck with the same set for a while now.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff I'm not sure about with Sunbreak. I think most of it is not going to stick around. But countering not something huge fan of. And big damage numbers, everybody has them, but I play dual blades, so I don't get this perspective of big number. Like 120 damage a hit is a colossal number for me. Okay, I don't. We're not talking anything bigger than that for dual blades for 90% of purposes.
Well, I've seen great sword users hit a sleeping monster for 9,000 damage.
That's a lot of
It's-
damage.
You're sort of getting some pretty absurd numbers there, but I mean, a lot of that is like highly economized gameplay, and that wasn't a weak monster either. That one was on a Tigrex, but it's this sort of this highly economized gameplay where everything is about okay, you counter the monster's roar, you smack the monster in the face for 4,000 damage, you put the monster to sleep, you put the mini bomb down, you counter the mini bomb into 9,000 damage on the monster, and you know by the time the first 30 seconds of the fight is over, the monster's on 50% health. Like it's this highly refined gameplay, and I can sort of see how mastery of being able to conduct that loop is satisfying to somebody who's, you know, really focused on being very, very good at the game, but it doesn't fulfill the fantasy of brawling with a monster to me.
Nah. You're only just smacking it while it's asleep, and half the fight's already gone then.
Yeah, no, it's fine for people to play that way, but I don't feel like it should be the center of Monster Hunter.
Hmm.
I mean, it's always easy to say, oh, well, the option is there, but you're not obliged to play that way. And no, I know I'm not obliged to play that way, but what I'm afraid of is if they ever start balancing around it.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Like, if 9,000 damage wake-ups became the norm, how much health a monster's going to have?
Yeah, and what are they going to do with the weapons that can't do the big numbers? They're going to just jack dual blades damage up, so we're hitting for 500 a hit? Like,
Yeah, I have more faith in Capcom than that, but that is where the lingering worry comes from. Like the Monster Hunter teams seem to be good at what they do, generally speaking. It's just that sometimes you've got to be a bit more experimental in order to keep things from becoming stale. And then when you do experiments, some experiments go up in smoke. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And I guess I can wrap Monster Hunter up with Lucent Nargacuga to finish off my week so that we can get moving. Lucent Nargacuga is Nargacuga with a few more physical moves, none of which I found dangerous enough to go keep in my memory in full detail. And he is faster. He goes Invisible, which is a problem.
Well, it would be a problem were it not for the fact that it doesn't affect auto-targeting.
Yeah.
So you can just click the stick and know exactly where he is.
So, other than the annoyance of that, especially when you're trying to latch onto the monster, so that you can buzzsaw or you can drill, you have to get lucky when he's invisible, because he's going to hop away in a random direction, in either left or right, and strafe around you more than likely. And then you got after that, you've got his poison. He adds poison to everything, so you just have to carry herbal medicines, and that's all that really amounts to.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't quite go far enough. Like they should have gone a lot further with him, made him really, really dangerous. Nagakugas are already quick and aggressive. Just adding poison abilities and some sort of pinnacle moves to the poison and I don't feel like that's quite enough. I wonder though if I was a little bit spoiled by Apex Monsters, because Apex Monsters are a different ball game to the original. Like if you compare Lucent Nargacuga to Nargacuga, other than having to cure poison, you still fight them the same way. Like he has extra moves, like his spinny things are a bit more enthusiastic and so on and so forth, but you still fight him like a Nargacuga. You can't count on the same business coming out of an Apex Rathalos as out of a regular Rathalos, because if you are underneath an Apex Rathalos, you are going to explode.
Yeah.
And then there's the other thing about Lucent Nargacuga, the reason I don't ever want to fight him unless I absolutely have to, is because his tail has so much dang HP. Like, you thought regular Nargacuga's tail was stuck on like glue? I almost killed that thing. It was blue before that tail came off, and I focused exclusively on the tail in my one kill.
I think you really need to bring a tail specialist for that sort of thing. Like, you need to bring a longsword or a greatsword with you in order to timely get that tail off.
And you need to have everybody else that's not on that tail just take a nap until that tail's off. Because that tail's HP is nuts. Like,
yeah, I don't know why they've gone that far. I don't remember it being like that in World. I don't remember having that experience. It seems kind of strange. Like, when you end up at that point of gameplay where your wake up is not used to get the most damage, but to get the most damage on tail, then I think that you may have made a bit of a mistake with your part hit point allocation.
So the tail's health says it's only 11,000 of his 50,000 HP.
It's not. There's
a
no
lie.
way. There's no way.
Even vanilla Nargacuga, his tail is stubborn.
It does point out that you need to be hitting the back fourth of the tail.
Oh, the fluffy bit.
The fluffy bit, yes.
And the fluffy bit and a little bit in front of it in order to get credit.
Oh, I see. So it's just that the target zone is so small that a lot of your time on tail is just not actual real time on tail.
Yeah, it's...
Oh. And it's cut out again. We were doing so well. Right.
Pickle.
There you are.
Pickle.
Okay, are we back? Can you hear us, Fern?
You're back again. At least that time my ping dropped into the red.
You didn't robot it all, though.
No. I think it's just Discord being Discord, honestly. Fix your damn software, Discord.
Blame New South Wales.
I will. I blame them for everything anyway. No, I don't. I blame Victoria. It's their fault. What are we doing? Right. Nargacuga tails.
Yeah,
they
so
suck.
they suck because the hitbox is so small, and you can't reliably put yourself in a position to hit the spot on the tail that is the spot you need to hit because it's so tiny.
And he's a bouncy boy.
He is a bouncy boy.
So yeah. I'm also just in the Southern Front while we're doing the show, and I got the calculator boss fight that requires you to actually do math.
No!
And he just popped up with indivisible. And so I had to stop and think for a second.
Prime numbers!
Yeah. The correct answer for me was 11.
Yeah, that's a prime number.
So yeah, had to stop and think there for a second. Yeah, I don't have that much else to say about Monster Hunter. I have gotten quite a few master ranks, but I have been doing relatively much easier content to what we've been doing. I've been doing the remaining support surveys and the new ones that just came out for all the new monsters with the NPCs, and I've been doing what you call it? Hang on, I have to do math again.
Well, per unit time, afflicted monsters are very, very bad master rank. From what I've seen people saying, the optimal one for master rank is the one where you fight the 4 apexes in the arena. If you can clear that in a timely fashion, you get a mountain of master rank.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I've just been doing the regular quests as well. The standard master rank 5 and 6 quests and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just trying to get those cleared out so I get the little check mark. Making progress on those. I'm down to just the 6 ones. But this is stuff I've just kind of been doing as time rolls. I haven't been paying too much attention while I've been doing it because the basic master rank quests are really, really kind of compared to some of the they're just kind of whatever. I've had Devil as a Part-Timer Season 1 on on the other screen, and I don't really have to think at all while I'm doing these.
Nice.
Because the new season just came out, and I really wanted to watch it, but I don't remember everything about season 1 because I watched it like 8 to 12 years ago or something.
Satan works at McDonald's. This is
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah, and I was surprised how much of the comedy still just holds up because it's all just generic, low class worker comedy with fantasy tropes. So there's not a whole lot to mess up with that. It just kind of is what it is. Satan is working at McDonald's.
Yeah, there's not honestly a whole lot that's caught my attention again this anime season.
Yeah,
Devil
I was
Part-Timers
going
one
to
of
watch.
them, though.
I was going to watch something else last night, but in the end, I just couldn't motivate myself to do it. It was like, yeah, but it all looks so bland. So yeah, the deep irony is that the only things I've been watching is Overlord and, of all things, Ruby. Like,
Ooh, Ruby.
I kind of like the Shaft version. It's very Shaft, and if you don't like Shaft, you're not going to like it. So yeah, but
Is the writing any better?
the writing is different. It's purely a exploration of Weiss's character and the concept of dream metaphors, basically.
Huh. All right.
It's interesting, and it's vastly superior to the original. So
Yeah, the original kind of just waffled a lot. It had excellent fight choreography, but the writing and a lot of the not fight animation was kind of
awful. It's deeply awful. But
they had a couple of interesting characters, but those they shoved into a cupboard and ignored them.
I think the improvement that I find the most interesting with the Ice Queendom is the way they've used the exact same style of music, but it's just better because the production is on point and the actual vocals are actually decent. Like, there seem to be a lot of people who are very enthusiastic about the original Ruby's music, but I thought it was complete garbage.
I didn't think it was the worst music Monty could have picked.
No,
But
I'm not talking about in style, I'm talking about execution. Like, I think that the performance was just subpar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a super duper big fan of it either. It's like I could take it or leave it.
It made
It's
me
like
cringe every time it came on.
But yeah, you can blame Monty for all that. That was all him.
Yeah, but they use the exact same type of music. Like, the genre is very, very close, and I could mistake them for songs from the original, except for the production values are just better. Even though the vocalist even sounds similar, it's just that the actual delivery is on point. And there's this way less unstable, and it just sounds less amateur, generally speaking. I don't know whether it's the same or a different vocalist. I don't know who the vocalists were on the songs throughout the original run, but yeah, they've just done a good job of it. But it's very much not like the Ruby fans are all mad at this series because it's so not Ruby, because it's like a journey to the center of the mind dreamscape based story. The bulk of it, like the first 2 episodes are, we're recodifying the opening of Ruby becoming enrolled at Beacon and so on and so forth. But then everything after that is, we now need to basically do an anime version of Inception.
And
So it all takes place in Weiss's dreamscape, and all kinds of weird crap is happening, and they've got to save her from herself, etc.
I mean, I get it. Like, fans of the original Ruby, that's going to be a kind of a steer off into left field, but let's face it, the original Ruby's writing was not very good.
As far as I can tell, the only discussion about Ruby is there's a lot of porn of it, and that's all these people seem to care about.
The people that try and discuss it seriously are they spend all of their time arguing about which seasons are good and which seasons are bad.
Oh, that's easy.
And
all of them.
Every season seems to have its fans and its detractors. Like, you can tell there are certain people who think that the best season is the one with the most rainbow flag pandering in it. Those ones, they will stick out like a sore thumb. But yeah, if you actually watch it, you can just see the fight choreography just fall off a cliff as soon as Monty's no longer involved.
Yeah.
Rip Monty. And then, yeah, it's a mess. However, I will say, Devil's a Part-Timer Season 1 is still good, since we're still technically there, to spin this into my recommendation I was going to
I
before
never
I
watched
forget.
it when it came out, so yeah,
Might be time.
I sort of meant to, but I never got around to it.
I think it's just a hair below Konosuba tier in comedy. It's
That's
less
pretty good.
frantic.
I
It's
do
less
like
frantic,
Konosuba.
but it does hit very hard. All the jokes are pretty good.
Is
And,
the thing which gives Konosuba its extra gunpowder is that its jokes are extremely memeable.
Oh yeah.
that it doesn't have that same type of memeable quality to it because it's just not as frantic or reaction based as Konosuba is. It's a different
how
style
many
of comedy.
years ago did Konosuba come out now? Because it has been years, whether you want to admit it or not.
I don't want to think about that.
But the useless goddess memes never stopped.
No, they never did.
I
Yeah.
see new ones literally every week.
Let's see. At least it's on the plus side of all this homogenization. Everything's at least on Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
Except for Crunchyroll's website is
14? I want to say 2014, but I might be wrong on that.
that date is wrong, so that's not helpful.
That would be a very long time ago indeed.
Yeah, 2014 sounds right.
I don't. That's a bit much in it.
Hang on, I'll tell you in just a sec. It's 2012.
2012.
2012.
I know the book started its run in 2012. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
The
Oh, the book was 2012. The anime was a year later in 2013.
Okay. So
No,
that's
it aired in
about
2016. It aired in 2016.
Okay.
I think. If I'm
Hang
reading
on,
this correctly.
that's novel. No, hang on. Sorry, I've got the dates wrong. The light novel series was 2012. The light novel was 2013.
Yeah, the light novel translation to English is actually finished, I think, and they're all available for purchase. I haven't bought the last few yet, so I don't know how the story ends. But it has actually finished its run at something like 17 books or something like that.
Yeah, here it is. The anime is 2016. So there you go.
But yeah, it's I think that they managed to sort of bottle lightning with how memeable that series is. It's yeah. Although I do very, very much like combatants will be dispatched. It's a lot cruder, but the fact that it's very interesting to me because it's a story told from the point of view of a protagonist who is just an idiot. Like it's told from his point of view. Like the book especially is in the first person from his point of view. He's not like a cunning individual. He might like Kazuma's not dumb. He's relatively intelligent but not a genius, and he lacks some common sense in some places, but he's devious. 6 is not devious, and he is not intelligent, and he is not cunning. He's a moron, and he's also the point of view character.
And he's a complete and utter degenerate.
Yeah, he has absolutely no moral compass to speak of. Well, that's not quite true. He does have a moral compass, it's just everybody wishes he had a stronger one.
It's in his pants.
Yeah, he's ever following his short sword.
Yes.
But yeah, he's just an interesting character to see a story told from that point of view because he's really dumb and his interpretations of everything going on around him reflect that accurately.
Yeah, we need a new genre: the dickhead protagonist.
I don't really like protagonists who are just like bad people for the sake of being bad people, but the reason why 6 is funny is because he's a bad person, yes, but he's also very bad at everything.
Yes.
So the reason I put Devil's a Part-Timer a little bit below stuff like that is because it's not fast hitting or memeable. It's just kind of it's comedy that you have to see the joke in full and then think about for just half a second, and you're like, oh, that's funny. And it's all low class humor. It's making fun of the tropes that go along with doing things like working at a McDonald's and having to deal with a Kentucky Fried Chicken. that's opened up across the street. And then you throw the fantasy tropes in there because he's a demon from they got isekai'd into our world, and he was the demon lord with his rival, the hero, showing up to chase him down and get stuck here too, working as a lady at a help desk that people have to call into to get support for some product. It doesn't ever actually explain what product that is, and all the people around them and all their work friends that they make in the workplace environment, and how they have to try and live a semi-normal life, but also deal with all the issues that keep coming from their world to cause problems.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I thoroughly enjoy it. It is very good comedy, but it is not snappy, memeable comedy. It's a different beast entirely to Konosuba, but I like it just pretty close to just as much.
Konosuba is essentially an extension of manzai comedy. Like, it's about somebody doing something stupid and somebody reacting to it.
Yeah. So I think you'll enjoy it a lot. It's an easy watch, even though it's not as frantic as Konosuba.
Well, I think I'll need an easy watch after the week I'm about to have, so maybe I'll watch some next week.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what Season 2 does. I really liked Season 1 a lot, but it was many, many years ago when it came out.
You say that, but Season 2s are always dangerous because they might just
be bad.
Fail. They might just fail to live up to expectations. I don't like getting hyped for the second season of a thing because sometimes the next season is like the next season of Shield Hero.
Or One Punch Man.
Oh. Yeah. I'm very glad I read the Shield Hero stuff first instead of waiting for the second season of the anime. The original run of the anime for Devil's a Part-Timer was 2013. It came in around the same time as Konosuba.
It sounds right.
Yeah. I wish you hadn't brought up One Punch Man. I would like to forget about that second season.
It was bad.
Oh my goodness. It's like the first season was just executed so well, and the second season was so phoned in by comparison. At least show the combat. It's about fighting, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't watch the second season of One Punch Man, because from what I can tell, I was not...
Let the first season live in your memory as a quaint and fun series that you watch one time. Don't try and follow on.
I never developed the same level of attachment that some people seem to with One Punch Man. A lot of people seem to really get into that series.
I think it was mainly people who had some attachment to Western superheroes as well. I think that the superhero, that's Japanese superhero genre, it really strikes a chord with people who have seen the fall of the superhero genre in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
Tell you the truth, though, I liked Mob Psycho 100 better. The first season.
I never watched that. I heard very good things about it, but I never got around to watching it. It's a lot of people's favourite series.
It is a lot, I'll admit. It can be a bit confusing as to what's going on, but it's a ride.
Well, a lot of people consider that a plus because it gives them something to sort of like get into and sift through.
Get all smug about.
Just something to chew on for a bit instead of just watch it once and throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
People like that. But yeah, I never got into One Punch Man at all. It just never clicked with me. I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't. I knew it wasn't for me.
I sat down and binged it at one time just because I hadn't seen any of it and people were talking about it. And I don't think that it was... It didn't strike any special chord with me as being a magnificent watch. Like, I haven't never gone back to watch it again. But I did enjoy the time that I spent watching it. I thought it was fun. Honestly, I would have liked to see a broader expansion of it with more time spent with more of the characters, rather than it being basically a series of gags. Maybe it's like that in the manga, maybe it tells a really coherent story, but I felt like a lot of the story arcs were kind of abortive in the anime. But yeah, the anime was kind of a disaster as we've gone over after the first season. The first season was quite well contained, and it made sense as a single unit, so it's quite easy to stop there, but I would have liked to see, the other characters play out in their environment. And I guess there's a manga retelling that actually tells it as a proper story, because I think the original comic is not really built to tell a story, from what I heard. You can get a story out of it, but it was sort of done in a piecemeal fashion, not a very clearly planned ahead fashion. But Yeah, this is a lot of sort of character dynamics in there that it would be nice to see characters that have character development to some extent.
Yeah.
Like if you look at like Genos, he's there at the start and he's there at the end, but he doesn't change at any point really.
Doesn't really do a whole lot of anything, honestly.
But he's like one of those classic monomaniacally vengeance focused characters who normally in a traditional shonen series would get character development, but instead he's just a gag character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's really necessary for him to stay that way, but you know, maybe that's what people want One Punch Man to be. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't have a clue.
Anyway,
But yeah, that's about it for my week. You get one media recommendation, and I've got quite a few master ranks of Monster Hunter, but have not actually accomplished a whole lot because I've just been too tired. I had 3 absolutely nightmare days of 7 to 6 o'clock at the office.
yeah. So, with a whole bunch of things on fire for... Oh, dear. Yeah, okay, my village is on fire. So this is appropriate, I guess.
Basically, you're going through the city builder process as per the normal script.
Yes. Sooner or later, everything's just on fire. It's gonna happen. So, we should take a break.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Here's some music, folks. We'll be right back. I think we're back for real this time.
Yes, for real this time.
So the issues we've been having cropped up the second Fern pushed the we're back button.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny.
Just, why you hate me, Discord? Why? Also, my village is not on fire anymore.
What a pity.
It
Righto.
did make an awful mess.
How will
Oh,
they
never
stay
mind. A
warm?
bunch of villagers just died. So that happened.
So we need to check our emails and do those because we have not done emails the whole time you've been gone, Fern. Because
Emails.
you did
Yeah.
not. We didn't want to risk me going through the email box and reading emails while I was also running the rig.
Well, there's only one email in there, and it's a chonker.
It's a doozy. I can
So-
read it if you guys are incapable of doing your England, but do we want to take this piecemeal or paragraph by paragraph, or read the whole
So-
thing and then go through it?
There's a lot of
Read the
games
whole
in here
thing
to
and go
talk
through it.
about.
Read the whole thing and go through it, and then we'll go through paragraph by paragraph after you read the whole thing.
So, this email is, as always, from our buddy Serithus, and he says, Dear No Excuses. So, in order to keep up with the no politics of the show, I won't mention any raids done. What I have done, however, is buying a bunch of games. Then refunded most of them because meh. Like Rings of Saturn. Best described as the mining portion of Space Pirates and Zombies, a rather fun game that had a sequel, by the way. So you just collect resources, meet other miners, and there is probably a storyline somewhere, judging from all the signals you find. The whole mining portion is fairly detailed with zero-G physics and having to chase down bits of ore floating away by matching its velocity. Things get easier once you buy a mechanical arm to collect the ore for you. There is quite a bit of management of power and other subsystems done by the ship AI, something that can go horribly wrong if the computer gets damaged, I presume. Collected can ore just flying out of the cargo bay just because zero-G physics and sudden stops don't play nice with each other. Second most important upgrade is a better cargo bay, and this is about how far I got with the game because mining got boring. So if there is a story somewhere down the line, I haven't found it. Also tried the demo for Nine Souls, a game that proudly describes itself as hand-drawn 2D action platformer featuring Sekiro-inspired deflection-focused combat. So somewhere between Hollow Knight and Dust Elysian Tale, and a whole lot of gore. The whole thing starts with your disemboweled body tossed down a cliffside to be absorbed by some mountain tentacles. Then somehow you get revived, make friends with the local little orphan boy. Naturally, there is a big village festival, and he is among the chosen to live among the gods, and we know exactly what that means. Human sacrifice. It's always human sacrifice. Then we get a lot more gore, some extremely linear levels, a basic boss fight, and the demo ends. Actually, this is where my worries come from. From what I have seen, there is practically zero element of exploration in this game, despite the Metroidvania tag on Steam. Also bought Cult of the Lamb. This is literally Binding of Isaac, but with the art style of Klee. Cult, lamb, human animal sacrifice, polygamy, it is a cult after all. Exploring room after room, recruiting followers, and getting rid of the useless ones. Holding rituals, building up a base, etc. It's alright. I didn't refund it, ran out of refund window, but unless you really like the Clay style, art style, it wasn't even made by them, or Isaac, wait for a sale, it's nothing mind-blowing. And finally, Atrio, The Dark Wild. Best described as Factorio meets Don't Starve. We always end up with Clyde, don't we? A very early access version of both. You are a strange android in a strange electric world, trying to keep the little darkness at bay. Automating processes and somehow capturing the souls of animals. At least that's what the description says. The story mode is nowhere near the animal part, and I didn't bother with the free play to get deep into to get to the deer abuse bits. Well, there's an interesting phrase. Also ran out of the refund window, so I guess this one's a keeper too. Really, I just want Silksong and Deltarune already. Serithus. P.S. Obviously, I was talking about FF14 raids. We almost got got Unreal Ultima's Bane down with the FC.
Hey, congrats on Ultimate.
Well, he said almost.
Yeah, but this email was sent a week ago, so he's probably got it by now.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You're free to talk about politics there. It's up to us whether we commented on it or not.
No,
No, it's up to Fern.
I say no.
Because he can just, quote, stop hearing us, unquote, at any moment now, and we won't be able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
I also have a big red button. It's not red. It's not big, but it's a button.
You have a lot of buttons.
I do have a lot
And
of
you'll be
buttons.
like, oh, darn, I guess my connection cut out again.
Oh no, I'm going to go and stare at the wall and contemplate my terrible existence. So, there's a lot of games mentioned in this email, so let's go down the list. Rings of Saturn.
I don't...
Looked at the trailer for this one, and yeah, it does look very Space Pirates and Zombies. But with
I'm
more
not familiar with any of the games in here, so I'm afraid I can't pass comment on any of them.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll start with Spaz 1, as they just call it, Space Pirates and Zombies, is a top-down space type game. So you basically, it can get a bit bullet helly, you fly around, you do missions, you gather resources. Also, narrated by Total Biscuit.
Why does this say Rings of Saturn Space Fury?
I don't know. The game, it's actually called, I think it's called Delta V Rings of Saturn now, I think of it. Let me check. Yeah, Delta V. So if Steam throws a couple of weird symbols in front of the name, that's why. That actually means Delta V. Because, orbital mechanics. I mean, it looks interesting enough for an afternoon to kill, but if it's only about mining and little else, then
Well, I mean, there are lots of games with mining in them. Like, I could play EVE Online again, I guess.
I mean, yeah, if I felt like playing a game like that, I'd probably fire up X5 or X4, whichever the latest X was.
And if I have to do mining, I would probably rather do it as a space dwarf. To be honest.
Yeah, and shoot bugs and be terrible. Yell at Molly.
And drink.
And drink. So yeah, it's an interesting looking game, but yeah, it does look kind of limited in scope. Visually appealing though.
Yeah, I think it's good that these exist though. I mean, they're not going to be for everyone, but you know that they're made by people who are humongously autistic, and they're made for people who are also humongously autistic.
Yeah. And yeah, for people out there who like it, more power to you. Have fun. Nine Souls is the next game, and this game I'm actually really interested in because it looks super cool. To use the developer's own term, it's Towpunk. So they
What does that
describe it
even mean?
as Taoist mythology meets cyberpunk.
I see.
Yeah.
I have some sort of like loose ideas about how Taoist philosophy operates, but I don't really know what mythos is behind it.
It's think cultivation stories.
Right.
That
That just
thing.
puts me in mind of Seth's review of Cultivation Simulator, though.
I mean, yes. I do not think you're going to make an infinite money mill out of this. Yeah. Anyway.
I know where you were going with that.
Yes, you do. But anyway, so this game it looks Metroidvania and it's got style out the arse, and I love it. But yeah, if it doesn't have a whole lot of exploration, that's kind of disappointing. Maybe that just might be a restriction of the demo.
They don't call it a Metroidvania though, as far as I can see. It seems to be somebody else has imposed that. They're just saying it's a platform game.
Yeah, it probably is. Steam tags, I think the developer can nominate a few, but if enough users assign a tag to something, it gets assigned as well.
No, I think it's exclusively the community that applies the tags. The developer might be able to, put the initial ones on there, but
That's
the
it.
community seems to be. I think the community pretty well decides what the
Yeah,
tags.
it's just whichever are the ones that get applied by the most people are the ones that shows up with.
Yeah, so
But
the
that
developer's
means that
tabs can get buried.
Metroidvania is one of those.
It means Metroidvania has been roguelite been co-opted for something that generically has a specific game feel instead of having an actual definition, and even that's nebulous.
Yeah, at best. So yeah, I haven't tried the demo of it yet. I might just do that because I wasn't aware there was a demo.
It's also Q2 2023, so you're gonna be waiting.
Yeah.
Demos these days when they come out that early, it's like I'll wait till closer to release, because if it does turn out good, I don't want to be stuck in a situation where I'm waiting eons for the game to come out.
Yeah.
And if it turns out to be
How
bad,
about
then
that song?
Look at that song. So, yeah, a lot of the times Steam will put out a demo. Rather, developers will put a demo out on Steam only a couple of weeks before its launch. But hang on, let's see. Nine Souls, have they actually got a release date yet on the Steam store? Let's see. No, it's Q2 2023, so it's going to be a ways away. Alright, next game, Cult of the Lamb. I did play the demo for this one. And yeah, it's the art style is very Cly. It's kind of that 2D characters in 3D world pop-up book kind of look. Meets Tim Burton. So that's kind of the Cly look. It's Cal Arts gets very, very drunk and ends up in a dark place. I kind of liked the little bit I got to play in the demo. It's like it's fast, fun combat, hacky slashy, explore the rooms type dealy. Unfortunately, the demo doesn't go too far into the actual building of your cult. It kind of says here, build a barbecue pit, feed your cultists. You have a second cultist? Okay, demo over. So, yeah. It's a fun, interesting looking game, I'll give it that. And yeah, you are a cute little lamb who gets possessed by an evil eldritch god thing and goes to hunt other eldritch god things.
Yeah, I guess there's not really much that we can really say about it since this.
Yeah,
I haven't played it. It just looks odd. It looks curious, but again, it's one of those things that for those people in whose niche it is, they're going to love it to bits.
This is
like,
right up my niche.
These are the sorts of games that I will eventually become more informed about when some HoloLiver starts playing it or something.
Oh, grief, a HoloLive are playing this one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they can only play things that they get permissions from cover from.
Oh, they're not going to get permission for this one.
They don't get permissions for some odd stuff sometimes.
All right, has any HoloLive done Isaac yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's less about whether or not cover will allow it and more whether cover can talk to the company to get specific permission for them to play it.
Yeah, because most companies don't really care that much, but cover's policy, internal policy, is to not broadcast anything that they haven't gotten communique from the company explicitly giving them permission so that they know they're in the clear.
And this was apparently due to huge problems with copyright strikes early on.
This is not about a content regulation thing. I mean, they allowed them to play Valhalla, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
their main game right now is Rust.
Wait, did Gura play Binding of Isaac? Gura is in Binding of Isaac. There's a mod to make her playable.
Well, they play Don't Starve together as well, so...
Yeah, that might be it. So yeah, Cult of the Lamb might be passable. It's kind of Binding of Isaac, but with less poo in it.
I'm okay with less poo. I'm not a huge Binding of Isaac fan at all.
I love Binding of Isaac.
I did not like the game. I
had no interest in it. It seemed to. It felt to me like, oh, you're just trying to be edgy.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that.
I think that like Enter the Gungeon sounds like the same game except more down my alley.
Incredible.
Because it's more over the top.
It's ridiculous. And you get to kill people with a t-shirt gun, so there's that.
You mean that's not what t-shirt cannons are for?
I mean, it was only a matter of time. All right, Atrio: The Dark Wild. I looked at this one and it looks. I don't know what to make of it, honestly. Actually, just looking at the Steam page, it looks like you're basically building a factory that produces light more than anything else. I'm not sure where the animal souls come in, or how. Anyway, and finally, Silk Song. Well, that's never coming out, and Deltarune, same story, never coming out.
Yeah, it's when it comes to stuff like that, I'm just like I know that Team Cherry got owned by the Coof more than likely because of their location, but it's been so long now.
I'm not going to accept that. Like, I have a policy that the Coof is no longer an excuse for anything.
Not anymore. Definitely not.
I know. Dan is a special case.
Yeah.
One of the special cases around the world for cracking down extra hard, but that's in the past now.
Oh no, Chairman Dan's still there.
I mean, he's still there, but he's not like, he doesn't have the whole of Melbourne under lockdown right now.
No one's listening to him anymore. No.
Yeah, if he knows what's good for him, he'll keep his head down and hope that he can survive the next election.
He did, just.
But yeah, I'm tired of people using the Coof as an excuse for everything.
Yeah, time to move on. As for Deltarune, you know when a new episode of Deltarune drops because the internet talks about absolutely nothing else than whatever breakout character came from that for the next couple of months. Yeah,
Deltarune is the... Undertale was one of the things that was lucky enough to get super internet penetration, so we'll know all about it. And Toby Fox works slow to begin with, so
yeah. I've played through Deltarune, or what is out so far, which is only the first 2 chapters of I think 10 chapters he's going to do. And they're fine. They're good. They're fun. They're not, let's burn everyone at the stake who disapproves of it good, but
this is one of those things that, like, he's gotten his fame and he's made his money. He doesn't really have a lot of motivation to push himself.
No. I mean, he's doing soundtracks for Nintendo these days.
Yeah, it's like he's made it in that sense.
More power to him.
Yeah, I'm not saying that as a criticism of him. I'm saying that keep your expectations tempered, because he doesn't have, like, he's not a starving artist with his next paycheck counting on making Deltarune a smash hit, because Undertale was already a smash hit.
Yeah, it was bigger than anyone ever expected it to be.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he pulls a notch and just cashes out and says, "Peace, guys. I'm going to go vote for Trump."
I don't think he's not really in that position, but like he got the recognition for his composition that he needed in order to leapfrog higher in the industry.
Yeah. So yeah. Thank you very much for your email, Ceratus. Yeah, hopefully you get Ultima down. Or
yeah.
You already have? Maybe? I don't know. Chronologically, it doesn't make any sense anyway.
Man, I wish I had time to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, time and energy. Even if I have time these days, I usually lack the energy component.
Incidentally, we're getting Sephiroth Unreal in the next patch. So, if you really hate yourself...
I found out that the word is actually pronounced Sephiroth.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched a thing on like Kabbalistic theology and cosmology and how it all fits together and that sort of thing. It was like a 1,000-foot overview in a couple hours, because it's ridiculously overcomplicated. But yeah, it's actually not pronounced the way it looks.
Huh. Interesting.
So, thank you for the email, Cerathus.
Yeah. All right, let us look at a bit of the news.
So there ain't a whole lot.
No, there's not. We're kind of approaching the doldrums again.
So there's one story I think we'll get some mileage out of. Let's take the other 2 first.
All right, take your pick.
So let's do the cringy one first, because it's quick.
There's a lot of cringe this week. You'll have to be more specific.
So, good old Fortnite is at it again with the crossovers. And the latest thing to get the cringe crossover treatment this week is Dragon Ball Z is getting characters in Fortnite.
They look weird.
They do look weird. I mean, it's a Fortnite crossover is just kind of everything is in Fortnite now.
Yeah. Which, ironically, every time they do another crossover, it makes me a little bit less interested in it, and my interest level started at 0. So,
Yeah, I
I'm
played
being actively repelled from it at this point.
maybe 3 games of Fortnite and I got bored.
It's too cringy because so many people won't shut up about Fortnite.
I think it hit negative infinity around the time of a Rick and Morty.
Yes. Anyone under the age of 12 enjoy?
I keep waiting for the bloom to fall off, but it never does.
It never does.
I think it's just the current League of Legends. It's got a huge amount of people following it, aimed at a slightly younger demographic, I think, than League of Legends was. But and people are just going to stick with it until the next hot thing comes out that finally catches on.
Yeah, slightly younger is a nice way of saying prepubescent.
Can't help but idly wonder, and not actually want to know the answer. How many people are into Fortnite who have never played it but just watch streamers?
There's got to be an audience like that.
Because it seems to be one of those games that every streamer plays.
Yeah. I don't know. Be interesting to see a number for it, at least.
I'm not sure I want to know because it might be depressing.
Yeah. So that exists. Like they've done Ninja Turtles. I think they did Nicktoons previous to this one. Yeah, they did Rick and Morty, which is
Who would do this?
I mean, if you want anti-comedy, there you go.
Ugh. Rick and Morty is just so like an iconic representation of things that are wrong with the current generation.
Yes. All right, more cringe. Let's see. Oh, there's so much cringe. You want to talk about Space Channel 5?
No, I don't actually want to. I posted it there as a joke.
I know. I'm digging. And it's more cringe.
I barely remember this existing. It just wasn't on my radar back when it was relevant a billion years ago.
Yeah. The most activity I actually saw out of Ulala is her appearance in the Sega kart racing games, where she basically turns the racetrack into a dance party whenever you hit her ultimate button. And somehow she's presenting the news while doing this. I have no idea. This character makes no sense.
I think I might actually have owned it once upon a time, but I never did play it.
Possibly, if you owned a Saturn, you probably did.
No, I didn't own a Saturn. I feel like I got it on some other platform, because it was on a lot of platforms eventually.
Eventually,
But,
yeah.
Maybe I have it on Steam or something. Is it on Steam? I don't even know.
Maybe? I will ask the Steam.
Nice.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
There's a VR?
Yeah.
There's Space Channel type VR.
I own Space Channel 5 Part 2 on Steam. I do not own Part 1. I do not know if there is a Part 1 that you can get on Steam.
Yeah. I mean, if everyone presented the news as a roaring dance party, the news would be a lot more interesting.
Oh, you don't want that. They already are getting way too many ratings covering what they already cover the way they do.
I don't know if they're getting ratings at all. That doesn't sound true at all. They fired Brian Stelter, remember?
Yeah,
that's right. Potato finally lost his job.
Yeah. Again, that's the new CEO of Warner going through the place with a fire axe. It kind of needs it. So
I do remember it being a very, very popular. Unlike the other IP mentioned in this article.
Comic Zone.
Was never popular. And I remember the demo of it being on the school computers because it was part of a Sega collection or something.
Yeah. I think they only ever acted the one game, was it? Let's see. Comic Zone, I think. Yeah, I think it was only the one game.
I don't know if I can stomach actually reading the blurb that Sega gave because it's so unspeakably cringeworthy.
Oh yeah, but that's kind of what Sega do. Yeah, it is. It's only a single game on the Genesis for time reference.
Ugh.
So
Ugh.
yeah,
It was such a bad IP. It's just been left fallow, and deservedly so.
yeah. All right, next bit of cringe.
We didn't actually talk about it.
I mean, it's cringe.
We didn't actually say what was happening.
All right.
They're
So,
making them into movies.
They're making him into movies.
How?
I mean, I can see it for Space Channel 5 as being some sort of horrendous acid trip, and that's the movie.
Oh no. Oh no. They're gonna have a whole musical about how much they totally got drunk this time when the walls are closing in.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the King of All Cosmos burst in through the walls in that franchise. It is that ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's Hollywood. Is it Hollywood, actually?
Is there a production company?
Picture Start.
Who the hell are they?
I have no idea. Who are Picture Start and what have they done? They have... How bad is this going to be? Eric Feig. He's been in... it's a new guy. Picture Start is Eric Feig's new group. He was formerly... various positions in Warner, Endeavor Content, and Scholastic, co-president of Lionsgate, and president of Summit. He has produced, here we are, La La Land, The Hurt Locker, The Twilight Saga, The Hunger Games, Divergent, Red series, and the Step Up series. So he started off making some high-profile artsy movies, and then he turned into tween rubbish.
Well, yeah, some of the movies I hear people talk about all the time.
He
Anyway.
did the I Know What You Did Last Summer series.
Yeah. So how do you go from all of that to Ooh La La?
Because he's unspeakably woke.
But
like he made that movie about a road trip to get an abortion. I mean, let me read to you the blurb for Comics Zone, and then you will see what I mean. Well, I'll just read the segment that is relevant here. Comics Zone, an adaptation of the cult console game, press X to doubt, that has been so influential to so many over the years, press X to doubt, follows a jaded comic book creator and a young queer writer of colour who, when sucked into the final issue of his popular series, has put aside their differences to stop a dangerous supervillain from sowing complete destruction, and in the process wittily explore the ever-evolving power of storytelling itself.
Considering the plot of the original Comic Zone was something like, guy likes comic books, guy gets sucked into comic books, there be fight.
Comics Zone will be written by Matt Kay, whose credits include writing on the Emmy-winning HBO Max original Young Justice and the How to Train Your Dragon spin-off series Dragons: The Nine Realms.
Oh, dear.
Like,
Isn't Young Justice also now insufferably woke?
Yes.
so I don't think I was too far off the mark here.
So, yeah, again, considering the comic book industry is currently getting fire-axed for being overly woke.
I wish it was getting fire axe. What's actually happening is it's just
it's dying.
It's just dying on the vine because they're not firing people.
Yeah.
But I sure wish they were.
DC Comics, DC now, I suppose they're just calling themselves because, Detective Comics. They don't think they've had the big axes thrown to it yet, but they have had a lot of pretentious up-and-coming stuff being frozen for now.
Oh yeah, they'll freeze the occasional series, but what they'll do is they'll take those writers, will just rewrite the exact same story with different characters because they learn nothing.
Yeah, we'll see. Because yeah, again, Warner, Fire Axe, it's happening. We'll see where the dust settles on that one. Marvel, on the other hand, has learned absolutely nothing.
Yeah, Marvel's even worse off. They're screwed. If you like Marvel comics, I'm sorry.
Apparently, actually, there's a guy who's doing a kind of an indie developer, an indie writer who's doing his own comic series.
There's a lot of those.
In the style of the 90s Marvel type thing. Just with his Kickstarter alone, he has beaten the total takings of Marvel Comics.
I remember hearing about that, yeah.
Yeah. And they're salty.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a lot of sort of like, I feel like the bigger establishment is going to start trying to slap down indie producers before too long, because their pride has been severely injured by their completely consistent lack of success with anything they have attempted for goodness knows how long now.
I mean, if you're consistently bad...
They just don't have the ability to compete in terms of storytelling with independence right now because they refuse to let go of prioritizing wokeness over a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only two solutions to this. Fire the people that won't write anything but woke crap, or try and make it so independents can't break into the market at all. And since they're all woke as well, and the people that write the books are probably their friends, what do you think they're going to do?
We shall see. We shall see. So, yeah. Do they have a plot synopsis for Space Channel 5 there?
I believe they do. Let's see. Space Channel 5, a comedy/dance adaptation of the cult classic 1999 dance game, will tell the story of a hapless fast food worker who is recruited by a freedom reporter from the future to save the world from aliens using the one thing that unites all people on the planet, our love of silly viral dances.
They had me up until the word viral.
Basically, this is going to be TikTok the movie.
Yes. So
people couldn't possibly need anything more than having more TikTok in their lives.
So the plot is, well, right up until the viral dances part. That is basically what the plot of Space Channel 5 is. It's stupid, completely stupid. But if they're focusing on memes, because these people don't know what they're talking about, so they'll be memes. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be real bad.
Yeah, the marketing types only see memeability as a thing that makes easy money, and so they're gonna go after it if they can.
Yeah, without any understanding of what it actually is.
So if they think something's memeable, they're gonna try for it with no understanding of how a meme actually takes off.
I mean, also, like, I think that industry as a whole is moribund at this point. Like, Sargon actually did a stream a while back, one of his informal streams he does on his old channel, basically arguing relatively persuasively that movies are basically over, that you can't, the edifice that is the traditional movie making sort of base, you know, in California, is basically not capable of creating good movies anymore. Like on a sort of like a constitutional level, they are incapable of doing it. It's not that they are lacking lacking resources, or that they've just happened to be making bad movies, or that the writers are poor. Like, no, the talent does not exist there to do it, because the people there are not the sorts of people who can make good art anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and so basically that industry is dead. It's dead in the water. The only good sort of like film media that's going to happen from now on is going to have to come from entirely different quarters.
Yeah, they're too married to the idea of having the correct opinion instead of telling a good story.
Well, that's not even Sargon's opinion. His opinion on it is basically that people there are too soft and have no experience of the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't speak to human experience at all.
That's also true, I suppose. There is no nobody in Hollywood has ever had to work at a McDonald's.
Yeah, well, Sargon argues from the point of view of his. I haven't actually watched it because I don't give his team money or anything. But he did a review of sorts of the new Matrix movie when viewed through the lens of it being basically a cry for help by the director and how it portrays production as a thing. Because I mean, it's about Keanu Reeves' character as a game creator, right? Like
Yep.
in that movie, he is the guy who makes The Matrix the game while being in The Matrix.
That poor soul.
And the depiction of how he goes about his daily life is an accurate depiction of entertainment production on the west coast of the US in particular. Everybody lives this incredibly sort of contained life in these tall glass skyscrapers where the only stimulation they get in life is through their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And how when he is asked to make a sequel to The Matrix, the game, it's just that they get a bunch of people in there and they try and like strip mine the original for the material that made it popular so that they can make another one
That sounds awful.
by committee. So there's no artistic inspiration, even like they don't even posit that it should be part of the process anymore. Just designed by committee, something that accomplishes the same thing that the last one did.
Mm-hmm.
But everything in creative quarters with a high budget is made that way now.
Yeah.
And so we're in what, Marvel phase something? 5? I don't know what we're up to.
I lost track, yeah.
And they're making things like She-Hulk.
Oh, yeah, that went down like a wet turd. But,
Like if I was a comic book fan, I would be very, very upset.
oh no, most of them have gone beyond upset at this point. They've just given up.
Like I don't know much about She-Hulk, but wasn't she like a relative of Banner? Like his sister or his cousin or something?
Cousin or something, but she was also more of a comedy character than anything else.
Yeah, well, partly that, but also like she was caring and supportive to Banner because Banner's shit was screwed up something bad.
Oh, when she needed to. Now,
Yeah.
she is the Stronk because she is the woman.
I'm fairly sure that it was well established that Hulk was the single most powerful creature in the Marvel universe, like as
Yeah.
comics went.
He's
Like,
right up there,
It's
yeah.
not close.
When he goes into World Breaker mode, there's nothing in the known Marvel universe that can break him.
Yeah.
Except for
Even characters who are literally god tier can't put the Hulk down.
yeah, only the character they call the one above all can do it.
Yeah.
And that's their equivalent to Stan Lee, the real one who actually approves the comic books and writes them.
Yeah. He basically is reality.
Yeah, but in universe, nothing can stop Hulk.
Yeah. So,
But I'm sure She-Hulk will be strong and empowered.
oh, she is. It's out now, and even the wokies hate it because it is so preachy and on the nose. That
Well, because it makes them look bad. It's like how libs of TikTok got suppressed on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because it lets everybody see what they look like.
Yeah.
Nobody who is an atrocious person likes having to look in a mirror.
Yeah. In this case, She-Hulk, the whole series. Oh, sorry. It opens more or less with She-Hulk telling Hulk to his face that she is better at controlling her anger because she got catcalled once.
Didn't the Hulk go through like the whole Thanos saga or whatever?
He went through the Thanos saga.
Didn't practically everybody he knows and loves die, and he couldn't do anything?
Yes.
Yeah, and the whole point of the Hulk's power set is also that he needs to never let go of his anger. He needs to always have it bottled up, because the way he gets to World Breaker Hulk God tier status is by letting all that out
Yeah.
So he needs to actually manage anger without being getting rid of it and letting stuff go. So he has to be a resentful little butt without that ruining his life at the same time.
He's supposed to be sort of like a because he is a superhero. He's still a superhero. He's not a villain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he plays the villain role in certain stories, but he is ostensibly created as a hero. But he is supposed to embody that virtue of meekness, where your anger is reserved only for those things to which it is appropriate.
Yeah.
Which is what meekness originally meant. But he's supposed to embody a virtue because he is a hero, whereas it doesn't seem like She-Hulk has to go through any kind of struggle.
No, originally she
this
did.
New version.
This new version, no. She's just powerful because she whamming.
Everything is served up to her on a silver platter so that she can be, you know, the new Skywalker, I guess.
So that's why the wokest of viewers are hating on it. It's just because it's so...
That and the CGI is atrocious.
Oh, and the CGI is just appallingly bad, yes.
Yeah, it's like, did they go to the same school that the peoples who made the new season of S.H.I.E.L.D. Hero did? Like, what is this?
Oof. Why you disrespect them like that? So yeah, that's gone over like just a wet fart, and no one likes She-Hulk. I'm going to be
the gist of all of this though is that there is no reason to believe that any announcement of a movie being made will be anything but a humongous disaster.
Yeah.
If they have enough money to make a press announcement about making a movie, the movie will be bad.
Yeah. Incidentally, if you want a good movie, go watch Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, I've heard that's quite good. That's like a better version of that new Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, it's all about fracturing timelines combined with ridiculous over-the-top martial arts.
You know what else? What other movie that's came out recently I've heard is pretty solid.
Hmm.
What's it called? It's got a really long name. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh, I've heard that one. Heard of that one, yeah.
It's Nicolas Cage's movie about Nicolas Cage.
I mean, yes.
Because, you know, Nicolas Cage is an overacting clown, right? But he's an overacting clown because of the sort of work he had to take when he was, I think he probably still is, in deep debt.
Yeah.
Because of his poor lifestyle decisions back when he was super popular. But from what I've heard, it's like it's not like a groundbreaking movie or anything like that, but it just sounds like it's a solid movie for entertainment purposes, and it involves basically him taking sort of a relatively honest look at himself and the sort of person that he was and is, and the decisions that he made to get there. And yeah, it's a celebrity allowing genuine shots to be taken at himself and responding to them in an honest way.
Yeah, we need more of that.
Which is, like, I think that these are like the only actors that will remain useful to their profession are those who have screwed up badly and come to repent for their mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Because the others have not gone through anything.
You need to go through some RL character growth.
Like if you look at like the characters, the character, like the one that I've seen come up from a few people lately is the new Predator movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
About the Native American girl who's going to kill the Predator or whatever.
Oh yeah, I forgot that existed.
And like the criticism that I've seen most often of that is like, because mostly the opinions of the movie are that on a popcorn level it's tolerable good. It's not an atrocity like some of the recent Predator movies have been.
Mm-hmm.
But the one of the dominant impressions I've seen people say is that the lead actress looks so round and soft that she's just not credible as a hunter, and it destroys the verisimilitude of everything.
Yeah.
There are tons of other problems with it, but just like the vibe you get from it is that these people are not genuine. They all look like residents of California.
Ew.
Yeah, this is a thing I've noticed in general, just with people in media at all. is they don't have to do any kind of work at all in their lives anymore. So they just look tiny and soft, and anytime they try to play something harder or serious or with a difficult, physically demanding or rough objective, there's a bit of suspension of disbelief that's hard to engage with, because these people they look like they've had hand lotion on hand at all times for their entire life.
They look visibly coddled. It's not like if you look at the really old actors, you can see they look kind of grizzled. If you look at like previous eras of film, like the Western era or the noir era, the way those actors look is just different. They look like people who have done things, because most of them have at some point in their lives.
They have at some point done a thing. Yes.
Like, think of all the people that aren't majoring in something dumb like lesbian basket weaving. They all will over time accrue wear and tear on their bodies and physical appearance that just makes them look a little gruffer.
Mm-hmm.
And these actors don't have that.
Yeah, the form that takes will vary depending on what they do with their lives, but yeah.
And especially the younger ones these days that have been inside and only played on their phones all their life and never ever gotten outside and seen what the sun is.
Like in the case of like Hollywood, that basically they have lived inside of a talent agency for their entire life. And the only thing they've ever been done is recruited for acting and things. And they can't be credible because they have never experienced emotions, so they can't deliver real emotions.
Yeah, they've never had to go out and had fights with their friends because all their friends have been curated by the people around them.
Well, these days, friends are something people have on Facebook, apparently.
Yeah, not that they would have real friendships to begin with. And then you got what else is up with them these days? They got.
You are sounding really get off my lawn right now.
They don't have any kind of time. They don't have any time that they've spent outside or in the real world with people. They just kind of have existed and online or watching TV or go into schools and then going home to go sit on Facebook or talk to people.
They're in that category of people who are often referred to these days as the terminally online.
Yes.
Yeah, they spend their life on Twitter.
Like, while I don't enjoy going outside anymore, I am very glad when I was younger, I went and kicked people into the creek and ran around outside and played baseball and frisbee with people, because it gave me a perspective that I can't get anymore. If I was born in this day and age.
I did all that stuff as well. I went hunting and fishing, and I played around outside, and I climbed trees and all that stuff that you're supposed to do as a kid that kids don't do anymore. But I mean, in a sense, how can they? The world doesn't accommodate that anymore. The way people relate to each other has changed. Like, you can't run down the street and play with your neighbor or anything anymore because parents won't let their kids outside because there are gangsters and pedophiles out there now, just on the street.
Maybe if you moved out of the cities.
But the cities will just grow larger. That's the problem. Alistair didn't used to live in the city.
He does now.
No, we moved again. We moved about 4 or 5 years ago to on the edge, but it will catch up to me eventually.
It will catch up to you again.
The only thing protecting me right now from it expanding immediately is there's a giant prison right next door.
Yeah, that's going to slow things down a little bit.
Like I work in the next town over from the city of Christchurch, but each year that passes, the gap between Rolleston, where I work, and Christchurch, where I live, gets smaller because Christchurch creeps outward by degrees. Like the gap between Christchurch and Rolleston is much smaller now than it once was.
That urban sprawl, yo.
Yeah,
but but thankfully I live in a bush town, and by and large, a lot of that stuff which prevents kids from being kids doesn't happen here.
Yeah, I mean, you're hearing a lot about people of a more traditional mindset in America, particularly moving into flyover country.
Yeah.
On purpose, in order to make sure that their kids have a proper childhood.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's something valuable there, I think. Without that perspective, I could have easily turned into some kind of softy.
If you grew up in Atlanta, you'd be a completely different person, yes.
Yeah, but that stuff was important.
That's also a possibility.
Yeah.
Lots of people die in Atlanta.
Yeah, to quote Seth's friend from the Devil May Cry video he did, Atlanta's effed up.
So anyway,
So yeah, that was
that's
that one.
that's
That was our discussion on Space Channel 5.
Yes. What?
So yeah, next up for the last thing, we have the one that everybody's been talking about this week because this was kind of a slow news week, and that is a mod got banned from Nexus mods.
Ah,
Yeah.
get out of
The-
it. Nexus
the-
mods. Like, it's difficult to say that, but like, just you don't mod anything else. You let the most vile and grotesque shit on your site. You
I have seen
barely,
your Monster Hunter
barely
World
draw
page.
a line at child porn. Just barely.
Yeah, they draw the line at that, but
That's
yeah,
the only line, though.
you
like,
turn
you know-
off the adult filter on Skyrim, for example, and oh boy. Yeah, Skyrim's one of the worst ones, actually. Ugh.
The first thing I saw when I went to the Monster Hunter World page for mods with all my filters not turned on was different styles of butt plugs.
What?
The people put a lot of effort into that crap. Like, there are some truly debauched and insane Skyrim mods. Like the one particularly famous one that the knowledge of unfortunately made its way to me was that there's this entire mod dedicated to this incredibly elaborate system of enslaving women in Skyrim to milk them.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Yeah,
But see, this is all totally above board as far as Nexus mods is concerned. This is totally reasonable.
but
yeah, touch
if
the
you
flag.
enable the Eastern localization of Spider-Man, or the Middle Eastern localization of Spider-Man, which files are in the game for,
Oh no,
with a mod, and that's all your mod does.
it's not the Middle Eastern one. It's the August 1st localization.
Okay, so if you put back in or re-enable the old files or turn on the Middle East flags for the game, literal flags, we're talking flags that blow in the wind, and so that you don't have rainbows everywhere, that's just too far. Because they have all been replaced by rainbow flags in the American version.
It's only, I think,
Or in the Western version.
Yeah, in the base game anyway, there's only a handful of them on a few buildings, but yeah, a modder has put in a mod that turns them into just the standard stars and stripes. Because I guess he just doesn't want to deal with the constant visions of flapping rainbows, which everyone drowns us in.
This is a slight against the regime. He has shown his disloyalty and his crime think.
This is the phobics. No, it's not phobic anything.
Yeah,
No,
this
like,
is-
he made a decision to switch those flags off because, frankly, they are an offensive invading ideology at this point, and anybody can see it. When some other group comes in to your city and then they hang their flag up and they force you to salute their flag, that's what we call an invading force.
Yeah, and they have this culture has penetrated everything. Even if you just take it at the face level, we just see this everywhere, and it's reasonable for assuming this was the most legit thing ever, and it was made no sense not to support it. People would want to break at this point. That's how penetrated it is. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
But
But,
the important thing here is the true responsibility for making sure that the correct thinking is engaged in belongs to Nexus Mod.
Yeah. So Nexus Mods banned this guy and took the mod off their site.
Yeah. Now
Like-
they're full of mods that add a whole bunch of really silly flags. But they don't touch the rainbow flags because that would be bad. And yeah, some of those flag mods are pretty offensive. So, it's just, why? The only people you're going to make look bad in this case at Nexus Mods is yourself, because you bowed to Twitter. And they bowed without even hesitating. So, it wouldn't be so annoying if it wasn't for the massive double standard. Because if it was something that, if they were always doing this, at least it would be consistent. I think you've disappeared again. Why? Why you hate me, Discord? Oh yeah, that's a lot of pickles. Okay. Yeah, they're gone.
Got covered.
There
So
we
I've
go.
been spamming him
Yeah, why? Why the pickle spam?
because you were talking and going on and
Yeah,
just
this-
ignoring
it's-
us and
it's
talking right
been
over
like-
us.
It's been like a minute.
Yeah, and I was feeling dead air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you might have thought about why the air was so dead.
I cottoned
Yeah.
on. But yeah, thank you, Discord, for ruining everything.
So yeah, that's the
So,
thing.
yeah, we now have this great line in the sand where the only thing that is inviolate, the only thing that is untouchable, the grand thing, the only kind of offence which is on the same level as raping a child, is to not respect the rainbow flag.
Which they can't make up their mind on.
You know,
This
it'd
is
be-
not Nexus Mod's business. It just really isn't. They should not be policing anybody's thinking. They should not be making these decisions. The reason why they keep child porn off their site and not anything else is because that's the thing that can be on their site that is illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna take a position that hardline, free speech on everything else, just go all the way with it, and just keep it
Because
there.
this is the one thing. This is the one thing. You can't count the child porn thing because if it wasn't illegal, they would probably let it on their site.
Mm-hmm.
But this failure to respect the current thing is the one thing that they are going to get upset about. Because they are offended by it. They personally are upset that somebody thinks wrong and they're going to levy that across their entire service.
I'm not entirely sure that's completely the fact. It's more... How to put it? If no one on Twitter or social media had blown up about it, I don't think they would have touched it. I don't think
There's
they would have
nobody
been
on
noticed.
Twitter. Those are bots.
Yeah, okay. The Reddits then. There's allegedly people still there.
People on Reddit aren't people.
No, they are some sort of...
They're Redditors.
They're Redditors.
Well, predators.
There you go. So, yeah, if no one had said anything, I don't think they would have even touched it. But no, you got to bow. Got to bow.
No, you don't got to bow.
There you
You
got to
just have
bow.
to not bow. Well,
Well,
if you don't bow, then what happens?
They,
Nothing.
Yeah, what-
they scream.
Wh-
And they scream loud.
if-
That's it.
If Reddit is mad at you, what happens? Or if Twitter is mad at you, what happens? What actual repercussions are there for you as a company or as an individual if Twitter is mad at you?
Nothing.
But they've managed, because people keep bowing, they've managed to maintain the illusion that they have power.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when Reddit sent troops to fight in Ukraine, and that went real well for them, didn't it?
Oh, I forgot about that. That was the
Yeah,
stupidest thing.
Like they
Most
are
of them are
hollow,
dead now.
gutless, powerless individuals who, once they get out over their skis and get too involved in their ideology, they do dumb things like trying to go to war and getting captured by the Russians and executed. Like that's what happens to you. That's what happens to you when you get drunk on ideology and don't live in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to capitulate to these people. They have no power except what they're given.
Yeah. All you
And
need to do
everybody's
is not bow.
everybody's engaged in this sort of tacit assumption that they need to respect these people. No, they've done nothing to deserve respect. They have not even been willing to do something as minor as permitting people to have an opinion. They only allow their opinion. And why? Why listen to them? Why listen to the people on Twitter? They are the least useful people in society because they live on Twitter.
Yeah. Like
And they
we
spend
were...
all day fighting with bots.
The world was doing very well on moving towards, inclusiveness and not istophobic or whatever you want to call it behaviors before. It was a slow and steady progress, but it was happening naturally. Now, it's all being pushed back the other way.
I don't even consider that a virtue. I consider that bad.
I
In fact-
think,
No, that was...
I think that it was going to, before government was involved in the matter, it was going to arrive at an organic final state.
Yes.
Whatever that organic final state would have been. The intervention of external powers is what has caused all of these problems in this case. Like people are going to culturally group. because they have their cultures and they associate with their cultures the best.
It's just what
That's
people
just
do.
the way it is. You're trying to force the deracination of cultures in order to be more inclusive is going to make everybody unhappy, and it's going to create incredible amounts of conflict.
Mm-hmm. And for what?
It's. I got a newsflash for most people. It's perfectly okay to disapprove of the lifestyle of other people, regardless of what that lifestyle is.
If you can't disapprove of somebody's lifestyle choices, it means you have no principles of your own. Like there are some things that people do routinely that are bad. Like lots of people where I grew up thought shoplifting was just a thing that everybody did and that you should do. It's just a lifestyle choice, right?
That's bad.
Like and it runs the gamut. Everything that people do is ultimately going to be a choice about how they live their life, and you have to have your own vision of the way in which your life is supposed to be lived. And you're going to associate more compatibly with people who share that vision to some extent. You can't have the government come in and say, no, your thinking is wrong. We are going to have to send the jackbooted thugs around to your place and make sure you think right, because we have decided, using our oracular abilities to peer into the depths of the universe and find ultimate truth, to have decided that this particular set of conclusions you have is wrong, and that particular set of conclusions we have decided to adopt because it's electorally beneficial is the one that we are going to champion. But no. This sort of thing goes from top to bottom of society, that everybody these days thinks that they are the ones who should be forcing their vision on everybody else. They aren't willing to allow people to come to their own conclusions. They aren't willing to allow people to have opinions. They know the truth. It's just facts. The experts told me so.
But you are allowed to disagree. You're allowed to have different opinions. And different opinions is how we make progress.
Well,
not just by stomping on everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking less about opinions and more just, in general, people's worldviews and how they live their life. Like, that's all LGBT alphabet people are. That's just a lifestyle and how people live their life.
Well, no, I think that LGBT has become something entirely different. LGBT is like a political cult.
Well, I mean...
it doesn't really involve any of those people, it merely hurts them.
Yeah, so those people have actually been buried by it.
Yeah, I was speaking generally and what they'll call it. And using their idea of what LGBT is just a thing that... a way people live their life, man, which is how you hear from them all the time, and what you hear from them all the dang time. That's still okay to criticize, because I can criticize every other way of life that is that I disapprove of. There's no reason for the alphabet people to be special.
Yeah, and that's really the problem. Like if they are in fact normal people, then they shouldn't be treated as special. They should be treated as normal. There should be no parades in their honor. There should be no flags.
And there it goes again. So, right.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Pickle,
you're back.
Pickle.
Okay. That was a short one.
Who even knows where we got cut off? But yeah, I was just saying that if they are in fact normal people as they claim, then there should be no parades in their honour, and there should be no flags in the street. There should be no special laws to give them benefits and protections. There should be no special rules on Nexus mods about whether or not their particular flag of allegiance can be added or subtracted from certain flagpoles in a video game. Like, if they're normal, they should be treated just like everybody else.
Yeah, like it's the meme of well, no, not quite. It's a little different, but anyway, it just drives me nuts whenever these people get enforcement from a higher power, when the same people that are enforcing that rule will tell you, "Oh, they're just normal people, bruh."
Well,
they just have a different lifestyle.
The dominant strain of progressivism in the political sphere right now does suggest that the way in which you achieve fairness is to make sure that you punish any group you perceive as an oppressor proportionally to how you feel you've been oppressed.
Ugh.
So you need to savagely oppress anybody you have decided is in the oppressor class in order to counterbalance whatever oppression your oppressed class feels that they have suffered. And all of these are just decided, out of hand. So that's why it's okay to repress this one exact type of mod, because the rainbow people are an oppressed class, and people who don't want to see that flag are an oppressor class, so they should be treated as worth less.
And we've gone over all this before, to some degree or another, and we've warned people this is going to happen. And sure enough, here it comes.
Like, you know, back in them Gamergate days, it's the same thing still happens. All I wanted was to play video games. All I wanted was to play video games.
Yeah.
But there is you can find any number of journalists that will tell you, and there's probably more than a germ of truth to it. There is a straight line between Gamergate and where we are in the world today, passing through various things on the way, such as the election of US President Donald Trump. Like all of these things exist on the same continuum of people. All they wanted was to play video games. All they wanted was to grill. All they wanted was to decide what their children were taught.
Yeah.
And then you've got these self-proclaimed moral arbiters coming in from the outside to tell people how they have to think and believe.
The best example of this is quote-unquote racism in the USA. Congratulations. We had won. It was over in the 90s. There were nobody in any serious number anywhere that thought about race at all. Period. And then you people had to go and make a big deal about it again. And start pushing all kinds of crap about it instead of letting it finish its organic death because you can get votes out of it if you can push it.
It looks absurd from the outside. Like Georgia is one of it's probably traditionally the most racist state in the US. The way people have portrayed it, and historically, it's like what proportion of the population of the capital of Georgia is black?
Oh, in Georgia now, white people are the minority.
Yeah, like if they are the most racist place, the most oppressive to blacks in the United States, why do they all live there? Like the very concept, when viewed from the outside as a matter of fact, is ridiculous. It's nonsense. And yet the American thinking about American racial grievance has now been exported all over the Anglophone world, to the point where we've got the same people in New Zealand are parroting all the American lines about oppression over, their own circumstances during the age of colonialism. Like, I'm sorry, none of that crap was compatible. The Maori were the ones who owned the slaves. The white people never enslaved them. And yet you're talking about white people holding native slaves. Why? Because terminally online. They think the real world looks the way Twitter looks.
Yeah. It's a sad fact. And you know what? I think these people that are pushing it right now are so addicted to the feeling of fake virtue that they get from pushing all this crap that even if they consciously knew that it was true that, racism was over in the 90s, they wouldn't care and they would still champion for it anyway.
I think it's
I think
a substitute. I think it's directly a psychological substitute for building personal virtue.
Yeah.
Like that, because it's very hard to work on your personal virtue, because it's very hard to work towards being a virtuous and holy person as an individual. That's hard yakka, and you're going to suffer way more setbacks than successes because it's that far against the nature of humanity to be a good person, generally speaking. But instead of doing that, why not just tell everybody else how to be a good person? Because that's doing a good deed, right?
Yeah, and it can be hard to build yourself up to make yourself as good a person as possible, especially hard for these folks that don't have any form of religion or faith to get them pointed in the right direction. It's but
they inherited all of that stuff culturally, even if they have no faith of their own. That still permeates the culture of the Anglophone West, at least.
Yeah,
but they've disposed of all of that as being oppressive because it tells them that they personally have to be different than they are, and they don't want to do that because it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to do anything other than what naturally comes to you for most people. So why not just tell everybody else what to do?
But yeah, and while it's still difficult, the thing I focus on even more than generically trying to be a better person is try to be consistent in my beliefs. And that's not easy either, because you'll catch yourself favoring certain things and have your own biases that you got to catch and look out for. But that's a good point to keep yourself oriented with.
Well, the thing is that if they eliminated their cognitive dissonance, then they would have to actually seriously look at what they think and how it fits together. But cognitive dissonance is doublethink is part of the Orwellian state's plan, really. You need to be able to maintain two things in your mind that are mutually contradictory at the same time in order to hold a lot of these beliefs, and that's just the way it is. And that's exactly the way Nexus Mods is operating here. They are willing to have the greatest atrocities in place on one hand and aggressively oppress somebody for doing something which hardly constitutes an atrocity by changing the colour of a flag simply because they've been told that this is the right thing to do. They received this from outside, this way of thinking. This is not something that's natural to a person to believe that the most important thing of all time is which particular flag is hanging from a flagpole in a video game. That should be of such trivial importance as to be unnoticeable. But they have been taught that the world revolves around this axis, and that the way that you need to act in order to take your proper place in a proper society is to capitulate to the demands of the people who think that this icon needs to be respected above all else.
Yeah.
You have to pay obeisance to their religion, or else they will come with pitchforks and torches. Except that they won't. In practice, they won't.
Forget pitchforks and torches. They won't even get up out of their chair.
Yeah, they'll make an angry cope post on Reddit, and that will be the long and short of it. And you see this throughout the games industry as well. Like they're people who are too scared to do things in their video game design or in their art because they're afraid of somebody making cope posts on Reddit. And why? Why be afraid? Like the game that Fern's playing on the stream. They refused to put churches in the game because they were afraid they were going to get some kind of religious baggage coming in as a result. But I'm sorry, a medieval town which has no church in it is not credible.
Yeah, a lot of games, whenever they do put a church into a game, they'll just keep it just a generic
Usually,
church.
It'll be pretty stark.
Yeah,
it won't be very detailed, but it'll be a church. It'll be an icon of, oh well, this is the building in which the sort of religious faith and religious culture of this particular town is built around. It indicates that the town has a culture.
even if it's non-specific.
Yeah, and it will be non-specific because it's a pseudo-fantasy setting in this case, isn't it?
Pseudo-realistic.
It's well, the thing is, it's not going to go down to the fine details. That they're not going to assign a patron saint to the town or anything.
No,
but there's no reason for them to not put a church in there, other than they have been told that somebody will come for them with torches and pitchforks if they do it wrong, which realistically has never happened.
No, it's never happened. Not one.
It's never happened.
Not one game that you can build churches in.
Assassin's Creed 2 got made. If people who like churches were going to get offended at a game, they would have gotten offended then. There's
some really nice churches in that game. Some of the world's nicest
you
churches.
also murder the Pope.
Also that.
Yes.
So
but what they did do though, because they were afraid of people coming with them with torches and pitchforks, is that they scrubbed all of the carvings, all of the friezes off of the Arch of Titus.
Yep.
The Arch of Titus, erected by the Emperor of Rome to commemorate the sack of Jerusalem and the carrying off of all the Jewish implements from the temple. They were afraid that they were going to push a tender spot. So they scrubbed all of that carving off of that important historical monument that people study in school. Like, why? What are they afraid of? Who is going to come after you? Just create the game, all right? You put such horrible things in games at times, such fascinating levels of debauchery and gore, and that make you wonder what happened to humanity to allow us to come to the point where there are people creating these things. You're willing to do all of that, but you're afraid that somebody might make a coke post on Reddit. Oh no.
Yeah, just ignore it. You don't need to listen to the coke posts.
There's literally no reason to capitulate to anyone ever. Nobody.
These people are the reason why Marvelous Entertainment is going down the tubes, because they got rid of Senran Kagura because there were too much booba.
There was a lot of excessive amount of booba in Senran Kagura.
There is no.
It was also keeping Marvelous afloat because people like booba.
People do like booba.
Like there is no such thing as excessive booba.
Oh, yes, there is.
You weren't saying that about Devil Survivor too.
That is upside down booba. That's
That is
wrong
upside
booba.
down, Boober, yes.
There's a difference.
I still have no idea how that got past muster.
Oh, he still draws girls like that.
With upside down
He
Boober.
never. Oh yeah, he never stopped.
Huh.
It's actually a semi-popular anatomical style in racy drawing in Japan for some reason.
Maybe because it confuses the senses.
It may in fact be something like that. Like, I don't want to think too hard about it.
No, because it gives me a headache.
Why do people have upside down boobs?
Why are
in some
your
media?
boobs upside down?
Amongst the artists who draw characters for FGO, Writer is probably one of the most popular, and he has some of the most questionable anatomy.
Anywho, that was our discussion about Spider-Man. So
We're very bad at discussing things.
yeah. Let's wrap it up, shall we?
Alrighty.
Yep. All right, folks. Closing comments, and I'll get us out of here because this has been a long one. But
has
it's been
been.
Fern's comeback show, so I can forgive this one for being a bit long.
Yeah. I need to play some Vidya.
We can do that after the show, and then hopefully that'll give us something to talk about next week, so that we don't.
Yay,
I'll grit my teeth and try and survive the next week. Hopefully, I will get a comfortable hotel room. I don't know though. This is not like last time when they bought me an incredibly ritzy hotel room because they were basically bribing me to do something unreasonable. This time I'm being sent to corporate training, mandatory corporate training, so I'll be lucky if I get an army barracks. We'll see.
We
So
shall see.
you're not going to be here on the show next week for this because it's going to.
I
take
will
all
be.
week?
It's only half a week. It's
Okay.
only half a week. But I will be completely wrecked by next week because I will have come straight home from travelling and then off to work.
Okay.
You love those weeks.
Yep. So Vol is sounding like he's going to be here next week. So I'm sure we'll get the full experience of what that's like. I don't know how my week's going to go. As usual, it depends on who's on the telephone. Yeah.
What sort of
And,
nonsense
yeah.
you're dealing with?
Yeah, and we'll see what Fern's up to. So hopefully disaster doesn't truly strike, and we have to do the Ari solo show.
Yeah, let's hopefully not.
Because you don't want to have me here without distractions from somebody else like Vol or Fern just tell me to stop.
Just stop.
Well, you probably do want that, but for the sake of the show continuing, we can't allow that.
Sometimes you just gotta stop.
So,
Last
all
time
right,
I did a
folks.
solo show, though, I played the KFC dating sim. So I mean, if you want something really weird like that again,
I usually try and stay as close to the normal format as possible, which means that I can't speak by the end of it.
yeah, I just can't. But yeah, I'll just find something very strange and play that instead.
So yeah, we will see you next week then. No email topic of the week this week because it's been a long few weeks, and we're spending this week and probably next week recovering from it, and we should be back on form week after next.
Yeah.
So, y'all got anything else for us to send us out of here?
Nope.
I'm fine, I think.
Alrighty, we'll see you next week. Sayonara, bye bye.